Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. In Konoha, Ashura Chakra is dropped at the beginning. Chapter 61. Time flies, and there are only the last 2 minutes left until 10:30. The 11 candidates, except Naruto and Uchiha Sasuke, were all present. Just as the time began to count down, a shout suddenly reached my ears. I saw Naruto being chased by a group of bulls, rushing into the square in embarrassment, and even fell to the ground. Seeing this scene, Nara, Shikamaru and others, as well as a large number of spectators, had black lines on their foreheads and the corners of their mouths twitched slightly. Yagyu couldn't help but sigh to himself. He was indeed the #1 ninja with unexpected surprises. After Naruto joined the team, Shiranui Genma, who was chewing a senbon, took out his pocket watch and looked at the time, and then looked in the direction of the VIP seats. Seeing that the 3rd Hokage and the 4th Kazekage were already seated, Shiranui Genma looked at the 10 people in front of him and slowly said, "The 3rd exam will officially begin soon, and I am the examiner of this exam." Shiranui Genma. The examination rules for the official competition are the same as your previous knockout competitions. They are duels without rules and any means can be used. By the way, I would like to remind you that when your life is in danger, it is best not to be brave and be decisive and choose to admit defeat. Because I am different from other examiners, I will not stop the competition just because you are about to die. Even if you admit defeat, I may not be able to save you in time. After finishing speaking, Shiranui Genma took out a form and continued, "The exam has begun." Uzumaki Naruto, who was drawn No. 1, and Akamichi Choji No. 2, stayed behind. Everyone else went to the contestants area to wait for the test. Watch the battle. Naruto was stunned for a moment, then leaned out and glanced at Yagyu and the others. Looking at Shiranui Genma's face, he said anxiously, "Examiner, Sasuke is not here yet. Whether he comes or not, what does it have to do with me?" Shiranui Genma said calmly, "If he doesn't show up when it's his turn, then he will abstain. Instead of worrying about others, take care of yourself first." After a while, Naruto, Akamichi Choji, and Shiranui Genma were the only ones left on the field. "Naruto, why don't you admit defeat?" While eating potato chips, Akamichi Choji kindly persuaded, "You are no match for me." But his words made Naruto furious. He raised his finger and pointed at Akamichi Choji and said, "You fat pig is no match for me. Look how I beat you." Swish. As soon as the word, "fat pig," came out of his mouth, Akamichi Choji's appearance changed instantly in the eyes of Naruto and Shiranui Genma. Originally a simple and honest person with squinted eyes, he suddenly opened his eyes and looked at Naruto with sharp eyes. Akamichi Choji said in a deep voice, "Naruto, I'm angry." Naruto was startled by Akamichi Choji's eyes, but he still refused to admit defeat and said, "Come on, who is afraid of whom?" Seeing the smell of gunpowder on the 2 men, Shiranui Genma took a few steps back, raised his hands and shouted loudly, "The 3rd formal test of the Chunin examination, the first round of duel, Uzumaki Naruto vs Akamichi Choji, has officially begun." The art of multiple shadow clones. Unlike those genin who first tested with ninja tools, Naruto, whose throwing skills were very average, immediately crossed his hands, formed a cross with his index and middle fingers, and shouted loudly. Bang 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 bang. A series of sounds like exploding balloons sounded, the white smoke dispersed, and dozens of shadow clones appeared around Naruto. This scene made many ninjas in the audience widen their eyes and look shocked. It is actually a forbidden art level multiple shadow clone technique. To create this number of shadow clones so easily, how amazing is this kid's chakra? Come together and beat Choji down. I don't know which shadow clone spoke, and dozens of Naruto immediately rushed towards Akamichi Choji. This kind of crowd tactics is indeed very bluffing. However, Akamichi Choji did not panic at all. He just put away the potato chips, made fists with his hands, and then jumped into the air. His body expanded like a balloon, his head and limbs retracted into his body, and he sprayed out blue. The chakra arrogance rotated at high speed in the air. Meat bomb tank. As soon as the high-speed rotating ball hit the ground, it hit Naruto and his shadow clones. The terrifying speed and power meant that Naruto's shadow clone had no time to dodge and was knocked into a ball of white smoke. The sphere rolled around randomly, taking out most of Naruto's shadow clones. Gulu. The feeling fed back from the shadow clone made Naruto swallow. Is this guy Choji so powerful? The art of multiple shadow clones. After Akamichi Choji stopped rolling and returned to the original state from the doubled state, Naruto continued to make a cross with the index and middle fingers of both hands, and once again used the multiple shadow clone technique. There is no way, except for the shadow clone technique, Naruto now only has the psychic technique that he just learned not long ago, and it doesn't work sometimes without mobilizing the Nine Tails chakra. Apart from the human wave tactics, he had no means of attack. This time, Naruto created hundreds of shadow clones and rushed towards Akamichi Choji again. Akamichi Choji still didn't panic. He took out a large number of kunai connected with steel wires from somewhere, then bundled them on his body, jumped up again and turned into a huge meatball, rolling towards Naruto and the shadow clone. Meat Bullet Chariot. Facing the more powerful meat bomb tank, Naruto's shadow clone turned into a large piece of white smoke again. The main body can only dodge in embarrassment. I can't get close to him at all. Looking at the meatball rolling around and scaring the shadow clones away, Naruto cursed inwardly, and then wondered whether he should collect rent from the nine tails in his body. At this moment, his eyes suddenly lit up. The rolling meatball suddenly stopped. After returning to its original state, Akamichi Choji was a little out of breath, not knowing whether it was because of the consumption of chakra or because he had been spinning for too long. So, Naruto made seals with both hands again and shouted, "Multiple shadow clone technique." Hundreds of shadow clones appeared again, and Naruto commanded them to rush towards Akamichi Choji. Looking at the rushing shadow clones, Akamichi Choji did not use the meat bomb chariot again, but shouted lightly, "Multiplication technique." Then, Akamichi Choji punched and kicked on the spot, and his arms and feet all stretched out like giant fists and kicks, and once again blasted a large number of shadow clones into white smoke. Multiple shadow clone technique. Naruto's voice rang out again. Before the white smoke transformed by the shadow clones dissipated, a large amount of white smoke filled the air again. Naruto, who had already seen that Akamichi Choji's chakra was far inferior to his, and that he had no long-range attacks and was not as fast as him, kept using the multiple shadow clone technique, preparing to use the human wave tactics to exhaust Akamichi Choji's chakra. For a while, Akamichi Choji was really at a disadvantage. Seeing this scene, Ino in the contestant stand couldn't help but say, "Choji is being held back. If this continues, he may lose." "Can't lose." Shikamaru Nara's voice sounded. Shikamaru Nara, who was lying on the armrest, said very confidently, "Choji is very strong, stronger than us." As if responding to Shikamaru Nara, Akamichi Choji, who had continuously resisted Naruto's waves of human waves, finally found Naruto's real body hiding behind the shadow clones and the white smoke. Turning his head to look in the direction of the audience, Akamichi Choji seemed to be looking at his father. The next second, he took out a rectangular transparent box from his ninja bag with a firm look in his eyes. It contained 3 colors of meatballs. Opening the box, Choji Akamichi took out the green meatball that looked like it was made of vegetables and threw it into his mouth. Boom! Blue chakra flames instantly burst out from Choji Akamichi's body. Prepared for this moment, the fat accumulated over the years burned quickly, and Choji Akamichi's figure suddenly disappeared. When he appeared again, he was already in front of Naruto. With his palm covered with materialized chakra flames, Choji Akamichi slapped Naruto, whose eyes widened and his face was shocked. Super push. In an instant, Naruto flew backwards like an arrow from a string. With a force 3 times stronger than normal, Choji Akamichi's palm was like a truck in Yagyu's previous life, directly knocking Naruto dozens of meters away. After landing, Naruto's body rolled a long way on the ground. This reversal came very suddenly, and countless viewers were stunned. Only Nara, Shikamaru and Yagyu were not surprised, because they both knew the true strength of Akamichi Choji. After all, in the combination of Ino, Shika and Cho, the Akamichi clan is the output. The Akamichi clan on drugs is as strong as a tank. The legendary butterfly transformation is as outrageous as the 8 gates of ninjutsu. In the chapter of the original novel that chased back Uchiha Sasuke, only Akamichi Choji and Hyuga Neji killed the 4 sound ninjas alone. Cough cough, vomit. Naruto rolled on the ground for more than 10 times, coughing and retching continuously. Fortunately, he only ate a little ramen today, and it has been almost digested now, otherwise Naruto almost vomited his breakfast. If he had not possessed the body of a sage and was the nine-tailed Jinchuriki, he would have been almost knocked out by the palm of Akamichi Choji. Now his body is still surging, making it impossible for Naruto to get up immediately. However, seeing Akamichi Choji walking towards him, with a completely different sense of oppression from usual, Naruto endured the pain in his body, and quickly got up and made seals with his hands, closed his eyes and shouted in his heart, "Stinky fox, it's time to pay the rent." Shua. As if hearing Naruto's voice, the mental space where the Jinchuriki communicated with the tailed beast, and the Kurama lying in the cage, suddenly opened his red vertical pupils. Red chakra immediately emerged from Naruto's body, shaking around him like a fox's tail. This scene made many ninjas in the audience look surprised. This is Sarutobi Hiruzen and Orochimaru, who was disguised as the fourth Kazekage, also opened their eyes wide. The former was surprised that Naruto could initially master the Nine Tails chakra, while the latter was surprised that the five elements seal he had planted on Naruto had been unlocked. Judging from Sarutobi Hiruzen's reaction, this was obviously not done by his teacher. Could it be that idiot is back? Thinking of the guy who had been pursuing him all these years, Orochimaru's heart sank. But thinking of the stage he had prepared for Sarutobi teacher, he breathed a sigh of relief. On the field, the battle continued. Although it was not the demon fox coat, the Nine Tails chakra still made Naruto's strength soar, just like Akamichi Choji who took the first pill. Naruto only felt that the pain in his body disappeared instantly, and it was fascinatingly powerful. Naruto rushed towards Akamichi Choji, and his body instantly turned into a red afterimage, which was a speed that Naruto did not have before. Akamichi Choji also rushed towards Naruto, and his speed was also extremely fast. Two afterimages, one red and one blue, collided with each other, and then Naruto and Akamichi Choji launched a physical duel with common skills and flaws. If the two were replaced by other top students with the same strength, they could easily suppress or even subdue the other party. In a ninja school, this would be a duel between two poor students, a fight between two losers. However, both of them exuded the arrogance of chakra, and their speed and strength were amazingly improved, resulting in their fight between losers not only not being ugly, but giving people a kind of blood-surging feeling of punching to the flesh. Unfortunately, it didn't take long for the chakra arrogance on Akamichi Choji to slowly disappear. The side effects of the first pill also began to take effect, revealing his flaws and being kicked away by Naruto. The body slid back several meters, sweating and panting. Akamichi Choji took out the transparent rectangular box from the ninja bag again. Looking at the two pills in the box, Akamichi Choji suddenly hesitated. Although he didn't know what was going on with Naruto's chakra, after the fight just now, his improvement was second only to himself after taking the first pill, and only his speed was stronger than his. As long as he took the second pill, Akamichi Choji would have the confidence to kill Naruto in one move. Because after taking the second pill, not only did his strength increase dramatically, but his whole body could also become huge, turning into a human mountain and directly crushing Naruto. But thinking of his father's teachings and the significance of these three pills, Akamichi Choji suddenly took a deep breath, put the box back into the ninja bag, and said to Shiranui Genma, "Examiner, I give up." Before Shiranui Genma announced the result, Naruto, who was full of blood, was like being splashed with a basin of water. The Nine Tails chakra on his body disappeared instantly, and he said in astonishment, "Choji, why do you want to give up? I am not your opponent. I can't kill my own people." The last sentence sounded in his heart, and Akamichi Choji dragged his tired body and walked towards the passage of the contestant area. The winner of the first exam is Uzumaki Naruto. Shiranui Genma looked deeply at Akamichi Choji's back, raised the corners of his mouth slightly, and then announced the result loudly. There was an uproar in the audience, and the applause was thunderous. The audience who came from other places in the Land of Fire or neighboring countries cheered for these two excellent genin. The first match was so intense and exciting, this trip was worth it. Those nobles also remembered Naruto, who could use so many clones, and Akamichi Choji, who was stronger than a beast. When they entrust tasks in the future, they might think of these two people. "Choji, you have an excellent son." Although Akamichi Choji lost, Nara Shikaku and Yamanaka Inoichi were full of admiration for the son of this close friend. Like them, there was Sarutobi Hiruzen in the VIP seat, and a large number of Konoha ninjas who, like Shiranui Genma, knew what the three pills of the Akamichi clan represented. Just like the evaluation of Nara Shikamaru in the original work, Akamichi Choji's surrender made the Konoha high-level officials see the traditional gentleness of the Akamichi clan and the will of fire in him. This generation of butterfly heirs is very outstanding. Of course, Naruto didn't know that Akamichi Choji had let him off. He was immersed in joy as he received cheers for the first time. He waved to the audience and ran to the contestant area. Yagyu, come on, beat Shikamaru hard. Hey, I'm still next to you. We are teammates. Yagyu, come on. With the cheers of Ino and Hinata, Yagyu and Nara Shikamaru walked out of the contestant channel and came to the side of Shiranui Genma under the attention of everyone, standing facing each other. Father, is he my sister's teammate? In the audience, Hanabi, who was sitting next to Hyuga Hiyashi, asked curiously, is he the one who defeated Brother Neji? Yes, Hyuga Hiyashi nodded expressionlessly, but his heart was full of mixed emotions. Just like Yamanaka Inoichi and Sarutobi Hiruzen, Hyuga Hiyashi had noticed Yagyu many years ago. At first, Hyuga Hiyashi didn't care about Ino's frequent visits and invitations to Hinata to go out and play. But as Hinata took the initiative to go to the gym to practice every time she came back, and the practice was the basics that only genin was qualified to learn, which was not taught in the ninja school, Hyuga Hiyashi became suspicious. One time he followed her and found Yagyu. As an adult, Hyuga Hiyashi saw Hinata's vague feelings for Yagyu at a glance. However, he did not stop Hinata from interacting with them, because Hyuga Hiyashi found that Yagyu's existence could bring Hinata a strong motivation to practice. Moreover, Yagyu is a civilian genius of this era. He can be the top student in such a special new generation, which shows that his talent and potential are very excellent. If Yagyu can continue to maintain this excellence and Hinata really likes him, Hyuga Hiyashi does not mind letting Yagyu marry into the Hyuga clan. Because as Hanabi grows up, Hyuga Hiyashi finds that Hanabi's talent and personality are more suitable for inheriting the main family of the Hyuga clan than Hinata. When it comes to making a decision, he is willing to let Yagyu marry into the Hyuga clan to compensate Hinata, the eldest daughter. But unexpectedly, Yagyu is actually a descendant of the Senju clan. At such a young age, he has mastered powerful illusions and the secrets of water escape. Such talent is simply a smaller version of the second-generation Hokage. This is great. With this bloodline and talent, he is simply the future successor of Hokage. Once Yagyu becomes the future Hokage, he will have a reason to let Hinata marry out and let both daughters avoid the fate of being caged birds. Therefore, Hyuga Hiyashi is now full of expectations and attention to Yagyu. This time he brought Hanabi to watch the official game, not for Hinata, but for Yagyu. This seems to be our first fight since we met. Yagyu looked at Nara Shikamaru across from him and raised his index and middle fingers with a smile. Ah, my grades are too bad. I'm so sorry I couldn't match you. Nara Shikamaru scratched his head with one hand and raised his index and middle fingers with the other hand. If you look closely, you will find that his eyes are no longer dead fish eyes, but serious eyes. Yagyu is the invincible big devil. This is the consensus of all the students of the 60th class of the ninja school. If it were someone else, Uchiha Sasuke and Naruto would definitely feel very unconvinced if they lost. But losing to Yagyu, even Uchiha Sasuke and Naruto have been accustomed to it in the past 6 years. As the first person to see Yagyu's hidden talents, Nara Shikamaru knew very well that he was no match for Yagyu. But his brain told him that if Yagyu only had these abilities, he might not have no chance of winning. After all, the shadow imitation technique of their Nara clan is not vegetarian. In such a large venue, even if Yagyu has a lot of chakra and a strong water escape technique, it is impossible to flood the place. As long as the shadow can control Yagyu, he will win. So these days, Nara Shikamaru has been thinking about how to control Yagyu and has prepared more than a dozen plans. And now, it's time to implement it. After seeing that both of them had made the seal of opposition, Shiranui Genma raised his arm again and shouted loudly, the second round of duel, Yagyu vs Nara Shikamaru. Start. Swish, swish, swish. Nara Shikamaru jumped back immediately and distanced himself from Yagyu. While his body was still in the air, he reached out and took out 3 black projectiles from his ninja tool bag and threw them at Yagyu. The 3 projectiles fell in front of Yagyu, on the left and right sides, and then exploded into 3 groups of smoke, covering Yagyu. After his body landed, Nara Shikamaru made seals with both hands, and a black shadow spread out from under his feet, and then the tip forked, forming several black long snakes, which quickly crawled towards the smoke. No one saw that in the white smoke, red powder appeared and disappeared. Then, 3 Yagyu rushed out of the smoke, with their hands behind their backs, and rushed towards Nara Shikamaru in the posture of ninja running. Looking at the spreading shadow, the 3 Yagyu immediately fanned out and surrounded Nara Shikamaru, without any thought of using water escape to attack from a distance. Nara Shikamaru didn't have time to think about why the Yagyu didn't use a long-range attack. Seeing the 3 Yagyu separated, he immediately controlled the shadow to attack the closest Yagyu in front. The next second, his pupils contracted. I thought this Yagyu would dodge the shadow in an instant, but I didn't expect him to ignore the spreading shadow and continue to rush towards Nara Shikamaru. Just when Nara Shikamaru thought that this Yagyu was a shadow clone, he was ready to look at the Yagyu on both sides with the corner of his eyes and analyze who was the real body in his mind. The shadow touched the Yagyu in front, but the imagined scene of the body freezing or turning into white smoke did not appear. Instead, the shadow passed through Yagyu's body, but Yagyu still rushed towards him. It's the clone technique. Nara Shikamaru raised his eyebrows. He didn't expect Yagyu to use such a low-level technique. But the next second, Nara Shikamaru seemed to have thought of something, and his face changed and said, "No, this is not the clone technique, this is illusion." The clone technique is very similar to the shadow clone technique. If you don't encounter the perception eye like the Byakugan, or some special perception techniques, the naked eye can't tell which is the clone technique and which is the shadow clone technique. To know whether it is the clone technique or the shadow clone technique, you just need to touch the other party to know. The clone technique is just an illusion created by chakra, like a mirage in the desert, which will disappear when touched. And the shadow clone is a physical clone that even the Byakugan can't see through. If Yagyu in front of him is just an illusion, then he should have dissipated the moment he was touched by the shadow imitation technique. But he didn't, and he was still running towards this side. So, Nara Shikamaru hurriedly interfered with the flow of chakra in his body, trying to break Yagyu's illusion. However, Yagyu in front of him still did not disappear, and had already rushed in front of Nara Shikamaru, punching him in the face. Nara Shikamaru subconsciously released the shadow imitation technique, took out a kunai from the ninja bag, and swung the kunai at Yagyu with his backhand. As expected, the kunai and the arm passed through his body. But the phantom clone in front of him still did not disappear, and the fist had already landed on Nara Shikamaru's face. Bang! The strong force made Nara Shikamaru's expression distorted, and his whole face was shaking in a wave-like manner, which showed how strong Yagyu's punch was. The next second, Nara Shikamaru's feet left the ground, and the whole person flew more than 10 meters away. Nara Shikamaru, who landed, was confused, and his strongest brain was blank. Seeing this scene, a large number of ninjas in the audience stood up involuntarily. Even Sarutobi Hiruzen and Orochimaru, who were in the VIP seats, were shocked and almost stood up in excitement. Illusion. Illusion body instant technique. Is this true? Is this a real illusion body instant technique? How is this possible? He doesn't have the Sharingan. How did he master the illusion body instant technique? Incredible. How good is his attainment in instant body and illusion to master this unique skill of instant body shisui? Quote. The ninja circle in the audience was already in an uproar. Many young ninjas, as well as the civilians next door, were all confused. It's no wonder they reacted like this. After all, the Uchiha clan has been extinct for several years. As we all know, 2 supernovas appeared on the Konoha side of the Third Ninja World War. These 2 supernovas are the 4th Hokage, Namikaze Minato, who made great achievements in the Flying Thunder God technique and was called Yellow Flash. The other supernova is Uchiha Shisui, who can kill the enemy in one glance at a super long distance, making the opponent immersed in the world of illusion. However, Uchiha Shisui, who is ridiculously strong in illusion, is called Instant Body Shisui. Just like Namikaze Minato was called Yellow Flash, because of the Flying Thunder God technique, Uchiha Shisui's title of Instant Body Shisui is because of the Phantom Instant Body technique he developed. The principle of this trick is very simple. It is just a combination of the illusion of the Sharingan and the instant body technique and clone technique taught in the ninja school. But unfortunately, except for Uchiha Shisui, there is no second person in the entire Uchiha clan and the huge ninja world who can master this technique. The effect of this technique is to use the E-level clone technique to create one or more phantom clones, and then the main body and the clone attack the enemy together. The phantom clone of the clone technique will disperse at the touch, but the clone of Uchiha Shisui fused with the Sharingan illusion will not disperse. When the enemy attacks Uchiha Shisui's clone and finds that it is just an illusion, and thus relaxes his vigilance, Uchiha Shisui will instantly come to the position of the phantom clone, making this phantom become a real entity. Then the next second, this entity may become an illusion again. That's right, Uchiha Shisui's enemies don't know which one is Uchiha Shisui's real body, and they have to defend against every attack of Uchiha Shisui, otherwise the attack of the phantom clone will become a physical attack. Countless people have died at the hands of Uchiha Shisui's phantom body instant technique. That technique, which is as powerful and terrifying as the Flying Thunder God technique to some extent, also made Uchiha Shisui famous in the ninja world, and he became the strongest of the Uchiha clan in his teens. However, after Uchiha Shisui's death, this phantom body instant technique, which is the core of the Sharingan illusion, has become a legend like the Flying Thunder God technique. And now, this technique has appeared again, and it's no wonder that those ninjas who know Uchiha Shisui are so shocked. Yes, Yagyu used the phantom body instant technique. After getting the Thunder Blade Yagyu has been using this ninja sword to practice the nature change of thunder release. After more than a month of tinkering, he finally mastered the thunder release chakra stimulation method, and his speed was no less than that of Xiao Li, who took off the weight. At first, Yagyu just wanted to improve his speed. Until one day when he used the shadow clone to fight with Karen without rules. Watching the shadow clone use the red eye illusion and the body instant technique to play with Karen, Yagyu suddenly had a flash of inspiration and thought of Uchiha Shisui's phantom body instant technique. In Yagyu's eyes, this technique is definitely not inferior to the Flying Thunder God technique and the God's hollowing in a one-on-one situation. However, the conditions for practicing this technique must have strong illusion and body instant attainments. In particular, the illusion attainments must be the kind of technique without seals. After mastering the Thunder Release Chakra Stimulation method, Yagyu has the conditions to practice this technique. Although his Sharingan illusion attainments are not as good as Uchiha Shisui, and he cannot create an illusory clone that will not dissipate. But Yagyu does not need the Sharingan illusion, and can also create an illusory clone that will not dissipate. One is the red-eyed illusion, and the other is the Naraku clone learned from Yuhi Kurenai. These two clones are illusion clones. The former cannot even be seen through by the Byakugan, while the latter can be strengthened by the Sharingan. And these two illusory clones can be fused together. When Yagyu tried it, it really worked. So Yagyu began to use the red-eyed illusion and the Naraku clone to develop the illusion instant body technique. After his efforts, he finally mastered this technique that combines ninjutsu and illusion a few days before the Chunin exam. Unless the illusion attainments and instant body speed are far superior to Yagyu, the illusion instant body technique will be the enemy's nightmare. Nara Shikamaru is the best example. I give up. When Nara Shikamaru, whose left face was already swollen, came to his senses, he looked at the three Yagyu walking towards him and raised his hands in surrender without hesitation. The new ability displayed by Yagyu made all the battle plans prepared by Nara Shikamaru for the past month invalid. Even if Yagyu showed mercy, he didn't know how many beatings he would have to take before he could master the information of this technique and make a plan. And no one dared to guarantee that Yagyu had other hidden means. What if he finally mastered the information of this technique and reformulated the battle plan after so many beatings, and Yagyu used new abilities again? Wouldn't he have been beaten in vain? Since they were going to lose anyway, Nara Shikamaru decisively chose the one with the least loss. Even Uchiha Sasuke lost for 6 years, it was not shameful for him to lose to Yagyu. The battle is over, and the winner is Yagyu. Shiranui Genma announced the result loudly, and the look in his eyes when he looked at Yagyu was also full of horror. This descendant of the Senju who has recently become famous in the Jonin circle, in addition to the secret of water escape, actually has this trick. Swish. Almost at the moment when Shiranui Genma finished speaking, a blue light flashed from Nara Shikamaru's body. The light beam flew out of the body and formed a floating blue light ball next to it. Yagyu walked in front of Nara Shikamaru, stretched out his hand to him and smiled. Thank you for your advice, Shikamaru. You guy, you are really hidden. Nara Shikamaru stopped the sinister words that surged into his throat, grabbed Yagyu's palm and stood up, while feeling sad for Uchiha Sasuke and Naruto in his heart. Being the same age as a monster like Yagyu is both the luck of their generation and the misfortune of their generation. When Yagyu grows up completely, no matter what big things happen in the future, there will be a tall man to support him. Similarly, they can only look up to him, and can't even see his back. The feeling of powerlessness makes people feel negative just thinking about it. After making the seal of reconciliation, Yagyu and Nara Shikamaru walked towards the contestant channel. At this time, the floating blue light ball also triggered the automatic pickup. However, it did not fly towards Yagyu, but rose higher in the sky and then flew towards a certain direction of Konoha. This means that the Yagyu who walked into the contestant channel with Nara Shikamaru was not the real person, but a shadow clone. Ino, Hinata, it's your turn, come on. Back in the contestant stands, Yagyu's shadow clone cheered for Ino and the other two girls. Yeah, Hinata, remember to show mercy later, don't let me lose too badly in front of my father. Let's work hard together, Ino. The two girlfriends were almost holding hands and going down. After walking out of the contestant channel, the two girls' faces instantly became serious, and then came to the side of Shiranui Genma, stood facing each other, and raised their index and middle fingers. The third round of the duel, Yamanaka Ino vs. Hyuga Hinata, begins. As Shiranui Genma's voice fell, Hinata and Ino started a duel between besties. Just like the fight between Ino and Sakura, the two girls first tested each other with ninja tools and smoke bombs. Ino tried to use the smoke to find an opportunity to use the heart turn technique. However, even Sakura did not give her the opportunity to perform the technique, let alone Hinata who had the Byakugan. Hinata just opened her Byakugan, locked Ino's position, and then rushed towards Ino. Faced with Ino's attempt to repel her ninja tools, Hinata did not dodge or use ninja tools to block them. Instead, she stretched out her slender jade-like fingers, inserted them into the hole in the middle of the shuriken, or held the handle of the kunai with 2 fingers, and took all of Ino's ninja tools. Such a scene made Ino dumbfounded. This is the white eyes and acupuncture of the Hyuga clan. After taking all of Ino's ninja tools, Hinata continued to rush towards Ino and soon came in front of Ino. Then the two women started fighting in physical skills, which they had fought countless times in the past few years. In terms of physical skills duels, both Ino and Sakura had both won and lost. Only against Hinata, they never won once. Now it is the same. Facing Hinata who can see the meridians of the human body, Ino can't use the 3-body technique, let alone the instant body technique. Every time she mobilizes chakra, Hinata seems to know what she is going to do next, and then decisively interrupts. However, Hinata did not embarrass Ino. At first, she just used ordinary physical skills to fight with her. After the 30th round, Hinata changed her fighting style and used acupuncture to poke a certain acupuncture point of Ino, which instantly paralyzed Ino's arm. Under Hinata's continuous acupuncture, Ino soon lost her fighting ability. The battle is over, the winner is Hyuga Hinata. After seeing Hinata subdue Ino, Shiranui Genma immediately announced the result. Sure enough, I am not your opponent. Ino grabbed Hinata's outstretched hand and stood up, exclaiming, Hinata, you are getting stronger and stronger. No, I can defeat you only because of the attribute restraint. Hinata, who had withdrawn from the fighting state, returned to her shy look, shook her head gently, and used the index and middle 2 fingers to Ino and said, Thank you for your advice, Ino. Hehe, thank you for your advice. After signing the seal of reconciliation with Hinata, the relationship between the two women changed from opponents to besties again. Then Ino held Hinata's hand, and the two girls walked towards the contestant channel. Seeing the two girls, the audience suddenly realized that they were good friends. Yamanaka Inoichi and Hyuga Hiyashi both nodded with satisfaction. Especially Hyuga Hiyashi, he was quite satisfied with Hinata's strength and interpersonal relationships. The only dissatisfaction was that Hinata was completely different when she was fighting and when she was not fighting. Her normal personality was not suitable for being a leader at all. If her personality was the same as Hanabi, then with her relationship with the heir of the Yamanaka clan, she would definitely be the best candidate to inherit the main family. After all, becoming friends with the heir of the Yamanaka clan means becoming friends with the three tribes of Ino, Shika and Cho. When Hinata becomes the clan leader, the Hyuga clan will become allies with the three tribes of Ino, Shika and Cho. By then, even the Konoha high-level officials would not dare to suppress the Hyuga clan at will. After Hinata and Ino's battle, the third exam's official match finally ushered in the highlight. Gaara vs Uchiha Sasuke. Many of the audience in the audience came for Uchiha Sasuke. Some of these audiences were from other places in the Land of Fire, some were from neighboring countries, and many were villagers from Konoha. It's ironic that when the Uchiha clan was still there, the people of Konoha were full of disgust and rejection of the Uchiha clan, because the guards were all members of the Uchiha clan, and the character of this clan was too serious and extreme, and often conflicted with the villagers. After the Uchiha clan was gone, they praised the Uchiha clan again. In order to watch Uchiha Sasuke's game, they were even willing to spend a lot of money to buy tickets. Fortunately, there was no war, otherwise, whether it was the civilians of Konoha, or the ninjas and high-level officials of Konoha, they would only miss the Uchiha clan more. After all, the Sharingan is almost invincible one-on-one, which has always been the consensus of the ninja world. Whoosh! Gaara walked out of the contestant channel and came to the square with his arms folded. He looked expressionless, and it was obvious that he had put on the sand armor. Just when Shiranui Genma checked his pocket watch and was about to announce that Uchiha Sasuke did not show up and automatically forfeited, a cyclone with a few fallen leaves suddenly appeared in the square out of thin air. The next second, two figures, one tall and one short, appeared in front of everyone. These two people were Hitaki Kakashi and Uchiha Sasuke. It seems that we caught up. Are we not late? Hitaki Kakashi posed, holding the intimate paradise in his hand, looking at Shiranui Genma and asked. Shiranui Genma rolled his eyes and said, "Your students will be eliminated in just a few seconds. You should change your habit of being late." From Shiranui Genma's tone, it can be seen that he is very familiar with Hitaki Kakashi. After all, he was once one of the guards of the fourth Hokage. It's okay as long as I'm not late. Hitaki Kakashi put away the intimate paradise and said to Uchiha Sasuke, who was wrapped in a few white bandages and looked confident, "I have taught you everything I can teach you. Next, it depends on your performance, Sasuke." After saying that, Hitaki Kakashi disappeared in an instant. "Are you my opponent?" Uchiha Sasuke looked at Gaara, who had impressed him a month ago, and smiled proudly. "It's great that you are my opponent in the first game. Before meeting Yagyu, I'll use you as an appetizer." Just like the original work, Uchiha Sasuke can't avoid being inflated every time he improves his strength. He has never seen Shaoli fight with Gaara. Except for Yagyu, who has never won, he doesn't take anyone else seriously. The same is true for Gaara. Gaara didn't say anything about Uchiha Sasuke's contempt, and his face was still expressionless. The expression under the sand armor is the same. Just like Uchiha Sasuke, Gaara doesn't take Uchiha Sasuke seriously now. The opponent's performance in the last game was too weak. If that was all his strength, he couldn't even break the automatic defense of the sand. There are only two opponents that Gaara takes seriously now. One is Shaoli, who beat him like that, and the other is Yagyu, who has mastered the secret of water escape, whose attributes restrain him, and just showed powerful instant body and illusion. As for Uchiha Sasuke, he almost forgot his name. Seeing that the two were ready, Shiranui Genma stepped back a few steps, raised his hand and shouted loudly, "The third round of duel, Uchiha Sasuke vs Gaara. Start." Swoosh. Uchiha Sasuke did not use ninja tools to test his opponent, but disappeared directly. In the blink of an eye, Uchiha Sasuke appeared out of thin air on the right side of Gaara and punched him in the face. Sanako defended automatically, but failed to block Uchiha Sasuke's punch. It turned out that this punch was just a cover. Uchiha Sasuke appeared on the other side of Gaara the next second and punched him again. The speed was so fast that Sanako, who defended automatically, almost couldn't keep up. Fortunately, he helped Gaara block this punch at the last moment. But these two punches made Gaara's face, which was wearing the armor of sand, change its expression. Like Gaara, there were Sakura and others in the contestant stands, and Shaoli and others who could only watch the game in the audience because they were eliminated in the previous exam. It's no wonder that they reacted so strongly, just because the speed that Uchiha Sasuke showed now, and the physical skills of attacking Gaara, were exactly the same as Shaoli, who took off the weight a month ago. Looking at Uchiha Sasuke, who was constantly changing his position to attack Gaara and trying to break through Sanako's defense, Shaoli, who had not been destroyed and now had recovered to full health, was still hit hard in his heart. Only he knows how much time and effort he has put in to achieve such speed. Under the bandages on his arms and feet, the scars are as if they are permanent. However, Uchiha Sasuke only took 1 month to achieve the results of his hard work. Is this the gap between ordinary people and geniuses? It's completely different worlds. Shaoli clenched his hands, his heart full of bitterness. Bang! At this time, Uchiha Sasuke had broken through Gaara's sand defense and shattered the opponent's sand armor with one punch. Gaara, who has been invincible since childhood, has almost zero experience in physical duels. After being broken by Uchiha Sasuke, he was afraid that the opponent could also use the same moves as Shaoli, so he quickly wrapped his whole body with sand to form a huge sand ball. After hiding in the sand ball, Gaara felt safe, and then used the Eye of Sand, preparing to hide in the sand wave and control the sand to attack Uchiha Sasuke. Fire style. Great fireball technique. Outside, Uchiha Sasuke tried to use fire style to break Gaara's sand wave. But after the fireball exploded, the sand ball was intact. Seeing this, Uchiha Sasuke was not panicked at all, but showed an intriguing smile. Uchiha Sasuke did not waste unnecessary chakra, but turned and ran towards the high wall of the square. Gathering chakra with his feet, Uchiha Sasuke ran to the top of the high wall like a gecko, and then formed seals with his hands. Zzz. The sound of the electric currents of the chirping birds rang out, and Uchiha Sasuke's right hand clenched into a claw with 5 fingers, and a ball of blue-white lightning emerged from the palm of his hand, rushing down as if to catch the lightning. Because of the diving posture, Uchiha Sasuke's palm was very close to the wall, and the lightning ball surrounded by arcs plowed a deep mark on the wall. Chidori. Uchiha Sasuke rushed to the front of the sand ball, and his palm and forearm with lightning flashing instantly penetrated the sand ball with amazing defense. Ah! A scream came from the sand ball, and when Uchiha Sasuke pulled out his arm, his hand was already covered with blood. Seeing this scene, the Yagyu shadow clone in the contestant stand and many people in the audience all had a flash of light in their eyes. Disguised as a member of the Konoha Anbu and hiding behind the audience seats, Kabuto Yakushi immediately formed seals with his hands and whispered, "Illusion." Nirvana Jingshi technique. Countless white phantom feathers immediately fell from the sky, like snow. The audience, who were cheering for Uchiha Sasuke's performance and felt that the tickets were worth buying, were immediately attracted by these feathers. When they looked at these feathers, they suddenly felt their eyelids become extremely heavy, and the excitement of cheering soon turned into a drowsy look. After a while, all the civilians and nobles fell asleep. Even some genin were the same. When those feathers fell down and touched those sleeping people, they disappeared in an instant. And those who were touched by the feathers fell into a deep sleep, and even if they were beaten violently or cut into pieces, they might not wake up. It's a group illusion, there is an enemy attack. Only the ninjas with Yinten chakra, quick reaction, and strong strength were not affected by these feathers. They all formed seals with their hands to dispel the Yinten chakra that tried to invade their brains. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The sound of breaking through the air continued to sound, and afterimages rushed out from the audience. They were all Otonin disguised as ordinary people. They had just taken off their disguises and immediately fought with the Konoha ninjas in the audience. Many civilians were implicated by their attacks. In the VIP seats, Orochimaru, disguised as the 4th Kazekage, had already kidnapped his teacher and jumped onto the roof of the VIP seats. A purple transparent barrier soon rose above the roof. The battle between the master and the apprentice was about to break out. Don't pretend, the 2 sand ninjas have run away, and there are only our own people here. Yagyu's shadow clone kicked Shikamaru, who was lying next to him, and said, "Go and help Naruto and Choji to solve the illusion, and then go to support others. It's really troublesome. Such a scene is not something we, the genin, can participate in." Shikamaru, who originally wanted to fish in troubled waters, scratched his head and stood up. While Yagyu's shadow clone was organizing the genin in the contestant area, the village outside the square was already in chaos. The Oto nin in the square was only a small part, and the main force and the sand nin were outside. After the signal sounded, they wreaked havoc in Konoha. Some Oto nin were scattered in various places in Konoha, took out a scroll and a blood bottle, and summoned the snake in the Ryachi cave. The sudden attack of the Oto nin and the sand nin caught Konoha off guard. However, under the guidance of some special jonins, all ninjas followed the safety manual. Some of them joined forces to resist the enemy's attack, and the other part escorted the villagers to the shelter. Due to the shortage of manpower, the Anbu who were originally in charge of the Hokage building also began to go out to support the ninjas of Konoha. For a time, there were fewer guards in the Hokage building. No one noticed that a figure wearing a cloak and a white mask quietly sneaked into the Hokage building. This figure was Yagyu's real body. After using the shadow clone technique at home, Yagyu asked the shadow clone to take the exam on his behalf, while the real body put on a cloak and mask, used the red eye illusion to hide himself, and used farsightedness and perspective to watch the game and look for the target in the Hokage building. At this time, Yagyu used the red eye and Kagura's hard eye together, and the inside and outside of the Hokage building, as well as his target, were exposed in his god's perspective. After Yagyu sneaked into the Hokage building, he went straight to the Forbidden Art Library. There are not only a large number of ninjutsu scrolls stored there, but also the place where the sealed book is stored. However, if you look closely, you will find that although Yagyu is walking towards the Forbidden Art Library, he did not use the red eye illusion to hide his figure, but walked openly in the Hokage building, as if he wanted to attract the attention of some people. When Yagyu was about to reach the Forbidden Art Library, the corners of his mouth under the mask suddenly outlined a beautiful arc. The next second, Yagyu's feet were empty, and the surrounding floor turned into a swamp, sealing Yagyu's instant body technique. Without waiting for Yagyu to struggle, the mud under his feet suddenly fell rapidly like the mud poured into the pit. Yagyu's perspective, like the falling object, the picture was reversed. Below was a bottomless pit, surrounded by wooden walls. After a while, Yagyu fell to the bottom of the pit. It turned out that there was a spacious underground base under the Hokage building. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. As soon as Yagyu landed, he heard the sound of breaking through the air. Several huge wooden vines attacked like pythons. Even under his feet, tentacle-like vines grew, trying to tie up Yagyu. Unfortunately, these vines had not grown out yet, but were already seen by Yagyu's red eyes in advance. Yagyu just moved in an instant and let these vines fall empty. In Yagyu's red god's perspective, in the dim underground base, there was a figure wearing a black cloak and a cat-faced mask not far away. This Anbu was Yagyu's target and the guiding ninja of the new 7th team in the original Shippuden, Yamato. Oh no, he is not called Yamato now, but Tenzo. Wood release. Sea of trees. Seeing that Yagyu had avoided his wood release attack, Tenzo did not ask who he was, but directly used his wood release ultimate move to take advantage of the terrain first. Saplings broke out of the ground, and then quickly grew into trees more than 10 meters high, turning the underground base into a small forest. The large hole on the ceiling connected to the Hokage building also grew a lot of wooden strips to patch up the hole. Obviously, Tenzang wanted to trap Yagyu in the underground base and not give him a chance to escape. Gathering chakra with his feet, Yagyu instantly dodged the branches that bound him when the saplings grew. Standing on the top of a big tree, Yagyu quickly formed a seal with his hand hidden in the cuffs of his cloak. A large amount of white mist appeared in the air, and the forest turned into a fog forest in a few blinks. Originally, chakra connected the forest, and Tenzang, who had a god's perspective, could only capture a vague figure. This is the mist hidden technique. Tenzo's pupils shrank slightly under his mask, and he murmured, "Isn't he a sound ninja or a sand ninja? Or is this just a way for him to hide his identity?" At the same time, Tenzo also made a seal without slow movements, would release silent killing binding technique. Instantly, the trees around Yagyu immediately extended a large number of withered yellow branches, like pythons and long whips, to tie up and whip Yagyu. Zzzzz. The sound of electric currents intersecting sounded, and a large number of blue and white arcs suddenly appeared around Yagyu. Swoosh! Yagyu's figure disappeared out of thin air, and the piercing sound of breaking through the air just sounded. This move was exactly the ninjutsu thunder armor that burst out from Kurochu Raiga. Originally, this move needed to be used with Thunder Blade Ya, but when Yagyu mastered the changes in the nature of Thunder Release, this move could be used at will. And Yagyu found that when he used this attack and defense Thunder Release and Thunder Release Chakra Stimulation method together, the speed could immediately reach max from 0, which was simply a replica of Thunder Release Chakra mode. How is it possible? Tenzo's face under the mask suddenly changed. In his perception, a large number of figures suddenly appeared in the white fog. And these figures did not seem to be clones. These figures moved quickly and soon disturbed Tenzo's perception, causing his perception to lose the mysterious man. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The sound of breaking through the air came into his ears, and the rain of needles from the sky flooded towards Tenzo. In the thick fog, Yagyu used the red eye illusion to interfere with Tenzo's perception, and then used the shadow clone technique. After surrounding Tenzo with the shadow clone, he immediately mobilized chakra to transform into ice. Escape nature changes, created a large number of ice thousand books in his hands, and threw them at Tenzo. Wood release tree realm wall. Tenzo, who lost his sight and only had perception left, quickly used the defensive wood escape. Multiple wooden vines rose from the ground, forming a cicada pupa-shaped shield, wrapping Tenzo up and resisting the attack of the ice thousand books. After a while, the cicada pupa-shaped shield was pierced into a hedgehog. Seeing this scene, the corners of Yagyu's mouth slightly raised. Then the shadow clone not far away quietly formed seals with both hands, and a black shadow spread out. Shadow imitation technique. This was the technique that the shadow clone burst out from Shikamaru in the official match just now. It was also this technique that suddenly burst out, which made Yagyu overturn the battle plan prepared for this month and prepared to hide in the dark. The combination of mist hidden technique plus red eyes illusion has an outrageous effect. In the original work, Naruto and Might Guy were both trapped by this combination technique, and even Hyuga Neji's Byakugan was helpless. Tenzo, who did not have Kagura's mind's eye or Byakugan, did not notice the shadow spreading. After blocking all the ice thousand books, he did not immediately remove the wooden shield, but released his perception. After finding that there was no person around, he slowly removed the shield, and at the same time gathered chakra with his feet, and was about to change his position in an instant. Ding ding. At this time, the sound of bells suddenly came into his ears. Tenzo, who was about to leave in an instant, immediately found that his body could not move. Gold binding technique. Tenzo gritted his teeth and said, he was about to interfere with the flow of chakra in his body. But the next second, his body really could not move. Due to the cover of the thick fog, Tenzo did not see a black shadow, which had connected to his feet at some point and deprived him of control of his body. Whoosh! The piercing sound of breaking through the air sounded again, and a figure with lightning flashed in front of Tenzo, with lightning and cold air wrapped around his fingers, and blue chakra flames, poking an acupuncture point on his body. Puff! Instantly, Tenzo vomited blood and lost consciousness on the spot. This finger is called shock acupuncture. In Boruto, Uzumaki Himawari used this trick to kill Naruto in seconds, causing Naruto to miss the succession ceremony of the 7th Hokage. After getting the red eyes, Yagyu began to study the acupuncture points of the human body. At the same time, he also asked Hinata, who had memorized the acupuncture points of the human body since childhood, to know which acupuncture points can make people go into shock and coma, on the pretext of developing medical ninjutsu. Since this trick requires precise hitting of the enemy's acupuncture points, the enemy must be fixed first, and Yagyu has never used this trick. If the enemy can be fixed, why use shock acupuncture? Just use a water escape hard vortex water blade to kill him in seconds. But Yagyu doesn't want to kill Tenzo, so there is nothing better than this trick. Swish! Almost at the moment when Tenzo went into shock and coma, a red light suddenly flashed from his body. A few seconds later, a red beam flew out of his body and landed next to him, forming a floating red light ball. It came out in one go. It seems to be lucky. The thick fog dissipated, and Yagyu's body walked out of the forest, looking at the floating red light ball, with a satisfied smile on his face. This is the advantage of a rich arsenal of ammunition. Yagyu's original plan was to expose the Sharingan and water escape, and then use ice escape to conceal his identity. But after the shadow clone burst out the shadow imitation technique from Shikamaru, Yagyu immediately changed his plan and prepared to continue hiding the Sharingan and make a new plan for the shadow imitation technique. The bell sound just now was the auditory illusion that Yagyu burst out from Jin's body after killing the Toss Trio, and then improved it into the golden binding technique activated by the bell. After all, in the thick fog, Yagyu also had to open the white eyes and red eyes, or the heart eyes of Kagura to see Tenzo. If the Sharingan was opened, he would be like Hitaki Kakashi vs Momochi Zabuza, and he couldn't find Tenzo at all. Without seeing Tenzo, he naturally couldn't use the golden binding technique and the magical shackle technique. Shikamaru's shadow imitation technique came just in time, so Yagyu didn't have to expose his Sharingan and water style. Except for performing the mist hidden technique and the red eyes illusion, Yagyu didn't move his hands throughout the whole process. The ones who controlled Tenzo and knocked him out were all shadow clones with only a little chakra. With the help of the magical skill of shadow clone technique, Yagyu was able to deliver in just one go. Soon, the red light ball was automatically picked up and flew towards Yagyu. Looking at the floating red light ball, Yagyu's eyes were full of anticipation and excitement. After the light ball penetrated into his body, Yagyu immediately called out the virtual panel to check the red light ball that occupied the first space grid because of its highest rarity. Space backpack. Blood limit wood style red. The blood limit that I had been dreaming of for a long time was finally in my hands. Yagyu clenched his fists and almost couldn't help shouting out loud in excitement. In Yagyu's eyes, under the 6 paths, no bloodline limit is more suitable for the body of a sage than wood release. If Naruto had wood release, he would not have suffered such treatment when he lost the 9 tails in Boruto. With wood release and sage mode, he is still one of the strongest in the ninja world. As Tenzo, a wood release experimental subject, his wood release power is only about 20% of Hashirama Senju at most. As long as Yagyu waits until the body of a sage grows up and then learns sage mode, his wood release power can reach 100% of Hashirama Senju. If Yagyu can learn all of Hashirama Senju's wood release ninjutsu, then even if Yagyu doesn't use Sharingan, he will be the first person under the 6 paths in the future, a super shadow existence. When Sharingan evolves to Mangekyo Sharingan and can use the complete Susanoo, Yagyu can turn a famous stock from his previous life into reality. Exactly. Susanoo Tata Buddha, one man destroyed 4 countries. The first prince of Konoha, I want them all. After the excitement, Yagyu did not hesitate to fuse the blood limit wood escape. As the red beam flew out of the space backpack and penetrated into Yagyu's body, the word, would escape, immediately appeared in the blood limit column of the personal information on the virtual panel. After Sharingan, red eyes, white eyes and ice escape, Yagyu's 5th blood limit. After fusing the blood limit wood escape, Yagyu raised his palm and transformed the chakra into the wood escape chakra formed by the fusion of the water escape nature change and the earth escape nature change. A green branch immediately grew out of his palm and quickly formed a small sapling. Then, Yagyu stomped his foot and fused the power of yang escape. The wood escape chakra full of vitality penetrated into the ground, and a section of the same green wooden vine suddenly broke out of the ground. This green wooden vine formed a sharp contrast with the withered yellow vine of Tianzang. Seeing this, Yagyu's mouth corners slightly raised, and then he cut off several sections of the vines and put them into the space backpack. After doing this, Yagyu carried Tenzo, removed the wooden strips that sealed the entrance to the Hokage building, and instantly returned to the corridor. Yagyu, with red eyes and Kagura's heart eyes, knew the current layout of the Hokage building very well, so he acted recklessly and went directly to the Forbidden Technique Library and pushed the door in. Several bookshelves filled with scrolls immediately caught Yagyu's eyes. Orochimaru in the original work got the 8-headed technique and the Impure World Reincarnation technique from here. Such an important place, of course, is guarded by guards. And this guard is Tenzo, the first master of the Anbu. The reason why Yagyu came to the Forbidden Technique Library was to attract Tenzo's attention. He not only wanted to explode the blood limit would escape from Tenzo, but also to plunder the forbidden technique library to enrich his arsenal. However, Yagyu did not see the ninjutsu scrolls and put them into the space backpack. These are all the foundation of Konoha. Yagyu's plan is to create an identity of a descendant of the Senju clan, and then burst out the blood limit would release from Tenzang's body, completely confirming his identity as a descendant of the Senju clan, while being able to use would release ninjutsu openly. As long as Yagyu uses would release, no one will believe him even if he denies that he is a descendant of the Senju clan. In this way, Yagyu will completely get rid of his identity as a civilian orphan and become a legitimate descendant of Konoha. At that time, identity and status will no longer be an obstacle to preventing him from being with Hinata and the other girls. The Santa Claus, who appeared in his mind 6 years ago, can also shout out that sentence, "I want them all." As a legitimate descendant of Konoha, after Sarutobi Hiruzen died, Konoha entered the era of Tsunade, and Yagyu was the prince of Konoha. Whether it is Tenzang or the major ninja clans, they will become Yagyu's supporters. Therefore, this is also the reason why Yagyu does not want to expose important cards and does not kill Tenzang. These scrolls of ninjutsu specially prepared for Konoha ninjas, Yagyu will not take them away either. Found it. While turning on the red-eye perspective, Yagyu quickly found a purple scroll by flipping through the scrolls on the bookshelf. On the seal of this scroll, there is a big word, wood. Yes, this scroll is the scroll that records the wood escape ninjutsu. In the original work, Shimura Danzo once gave this scroll to Tenzo, who was still codenamed Ja. Putting Tenzo on the ground, Yagyu opened the scroll and checked the wood escape ninjutsu inside. Wood escape wood clone, wood escape wood transformation, wood escape wood substitute. Wood escape tree world advent. Wood escape flower tree world advent. Wood escape wood dragon technique, wood escape wood man technique. From the lowest level of wood clone to the highest level of wood dragon, wood man and flower tree world advent, all 3 sets are available. This is also the invincible ninjutsu of the god of ninja. No matter how Uchiha Madara's eyes are upgraded, he will be hung up and beaten. There was only one wood release ninjutsu that Yagyu didn't see. That was the wood release secret that even a strong man like Hashirama Senju had to be alive and in sage mode to use. Sage method would release True Thousand Hands. This ninjutsu is also one of the only 2 officially recognized SSS level ninjutsu. The other SSS level ninjutsu is a fusion of yin and yang and the 5 elements, just like the bloodline net, but it does not belong to the bloodline net and bloodline elimination, but the seeking truth jade in the ninjutsu classification. Yagyu frowned and murmured, "Is it too late to keep it, or is it intentional not to keep it?" A few seconds later, Yagyu suddenly realized. No wonder Shimura Danzo in the original work only mentioned the advent of the flower tree world. It turns out that the 3-piece set of Woodman, Wood Dragon and Flower Tree World Advent is their greatest cognition. Only Uchiha Madara, Black Zetsu, and Kurama know the wood release secret of Sage Method would release True Thousand Hands. Thinking of this, Yagyu was instantly relieved. So, Yagyu took out the film camera, opened the Sharingan at the same time, and took pictures of all the wood release ninjutsu on the scroll. After doing this, Yagyu put the scroll away and put it back to its original position. Next, Yagyu was still not in a hurry to find the sealed book, but continued to flip through the ninjutsu scrolls on the bookshelf, looking for the ninjutsu he wanted. After a while, Yagyu found the ninjutsu he wanted. Water release water rush wave. Water release water dragon bullet. Water release heavenly cry. Water release wave riding strike. Water release water trumpet technique, and water release water dragon bite explosion and water release water break wave. Yes, these ninjutsu are all water release ninjutsu of Senju Tobarama. Just like wood release, in Yagyu's eyes, the most suitable 5-element ninjutsu for the immortal body is undoubtedly water release ninjutsu. Hoshigaki Kisame relied on the chakra of the tailless beast to become a leader in the cage level with only water release ninjutsu. Senju Tobarama, who has the blood of the Senju clan, is known as the man who signed a contract with the sea and the strongest Hokage in water release. Just like before, Yagyu used the Sharingan and film camera to take pictures of the training methods of these water release ninjutsu. After putting the scrolls of these water release ninjutsu back in place, Yagyu continued to browse the bookshelf and soon found other techniques he wanted. These techniques are not 5-element ninjutsu, nor are they forbidden techniques, but the upper and lower limits are very outrageous, and the most capable of killing enemies across levels. Sealing techniques. As allies of the Uzumaki clan, the wives of the first Hokage and the fourth Hokage are both descendants of the Uzumaki clan. In addition to the 3 unique abilities, Konoha has a complete Uzumaki clan heritage. Yagyu continued to film these sealing techniques. Not only could he learn them himself, but even if Tsunade did not accept Karen as her apprentice, he could secretly teach Karen, and then let Karen teach Ino as a descendant of the Uzumaki clan, and teach Hinata some techniques that did not require yin attributes. After all, among the 4 girls, only Hinata did not have yin attribute chakra. It was also a bit ridiculous. Among the 4 girls, Sakura, Ino and Karen all had the 4 attributes of yin, yang, water and earth, but Hinata only had the 2 attributes of fire and thunder. After changing to a new film and filming the training methods of the sealing techniques, Yagyu continued to flip through them. Soon, Yagyu frowned. He found a problem. That is, there is no independent scroll of forbidden techniques in the Forbidden Technique Library. Judging from the fact that Orochimaru obtained the 8-headed technique and the Impure World Reincarnation technique, these forbidden techniques obviously have independent scrolls. When Minato Namikaze was learning the Flying Thunder God technique, he could not have been holding the sealed book to read it. It was obvious that Jiraiya had given him the independent scroll of the Flying Thunder God technique. How come there is no independent scroll of forbidden techniques in such a large forbidden technique library? Could it be that Sarutobi Hiruzen found out that Orochimaru had taken the independent scrolls of the 8-headed technique and the Impure World Reincarnation technique, so he did not put the independent scrolls of forbidden techniques here, or destroyed them? Yagyu continued to look through them, but still could not find the independent scroll of forbidden techniques. So, Yagyu finally came to the place where the sealed book was stored and found the super large scroll in the secret compartment. The scroll was red and white, and there was a big word, seal, written on the sticker. With the red-eye perspective turned on, Yagyu recognized the scroll at a glance. It was the real sealed book, and also confirmed that the sealed book stolen by Naruto was just a fake that Sarutobi Hiruzen used to take advantage of the situation. There is no other reason, just because in the perspective of Liu Sheng's red eyes, there is a slight flow of chakra on the seal of this scroll, which cannot be detected if you don't look carefully. This word, seal, is actually a sealing technique. If you don't solve this sealing technique, you can't see the forbidden technique inside. Although it is reasonable, Liu Sheng's mouth twitched slightly. After all, the photos of the sealing technique he took have not been developed yet, and his current attainment in the sealing technique is 0. And Liu Sheng doesn't know which sealing technique this sealing technique is. In other words, he can't get the forbidden technique in the sealing technique for the time being. Thinking of this, Liu Sheng wanted to put the sealed book into the space backpack at the first time, and try to break the seal on the sealed book after learning those sealing techniques. But the next second, Liu Sheng gave up this idea. If he doesn't kill Tianzang, his identity as a mysterious person and his purpose of going to the Forbidden Technique Library will be exposed. As long as he checks, he will know that the sealed book has been stolen. Regardless of whether Yagyu puts the sealed book back to its original place in the future, it is also a case of trying to cover up the truth when he uses the forbidden techniques in the sealed book. If the sealed book is obtained from Tsunade, there is no need to take it away. All you need to do is to win Tsunade's favor and let her fully trust this clan member of yours, and then ask her to see the sealed book. Swish. Suddenly, a flash of inspiration flashed through Yagyu's mind, and goosebumps rose all over his body. Because Yagyu thought of a way that would not only allow him to obtain the forbidden techniques in the sealed book, but also the immortal technique, would release, True Thousand Hands, which was not recorded in the would release scroll. So, Yagyu did not look at the sealed book again and closed the secret compartment directly. Coming to Tenzo's side, Yagyu helped him up and leaned against the wall, then took off his cat-faced mask, opened his Sharingan, and put his hand on his head. Just like Uchiha Itachi hypnotized Yakushi Kabuto, Yagyu invaded the Yin-Tun chakra into Tenzang's brain and controlled the chakra in his brain nerves. After a while, Tenzang opened his eyes with a dull look. After hypnotizing Tenzang, Yagyu asked, "Did you see what controlled your body just now?" It's the golden binding technique. Tenzang answered blankly. Besides the golden binding technique, is there anything else? No, the fog is too thick. Then do you know what knocked you out? No, I don't know. Hearing this answer, Yagyu nodded with satisfaction. It's good that he didn't see the shadow imitation technique and couldn't recognize the acupoint pressing hand that contained two nature changes, so that he wouldn't implicate the Nara clan and the Hyuga clan. So, Yagyu let Tenzo continue to sleep and carried his body back to the underground base. After throwing Tenzo's body to the ground, Yagyu left the underground base in an instant, used the red eye illusion to hide his figure, and quickly left the central street of Konoha. Arriving at the Nanhi River near the Uchiha clan, Yagyu put his cloak and mask into his space backpack, and then jumped into the river to wash off the traces on his body. In this way, even if the ninja dogs of the Inuzuka clan followed the smell, they would lose the clues here. And at this critical moment, when Tenzo reported and the Konoha high level reacted and asked the Inuzuka clan to assist in the investigation, the residual smell had already disappeared. After all, the finger of Uzumaki Himawari made Naruto, one of the strongest in the ninja world, unconscious for a long time. Tenzo was hit by Yagyu's finger, and he had to be unconscious for at least one day. Yagyu jumped into the river to wash off the traces just to be safe. After coming up from the Nanhi River, Yagyu first took out dry clothes to change, and then took out a new set of black cloaks and masks to put on. Then, Yagyu made seals with both hands and used Kagura's hard eyes with all his strength to see the location of the shadow clone. At this time, the shadow clone had organized the ninjas in the contest area to receive the A-level mission from Hitaki Kakashi and go to the forest to support Uchiha Sasuke, who was chasing Gaara's three siblings. So, Yagyu continued to open the red eye's farsightedness and perspective, looking for a certain place. It took more than 10 minutes for Yagyu to leave Konoha and finally found that place under a mountain wall at the end. Using the lightning chakra stimulation method, Yagyu moved forward at full speed. Now the Konoha ninjas are almost sending all the villagers to the shelter. According to Konoha's safety manual, as long as the villagers are sent to the shelter, there will be no worries, and Konoha will gather all its strength to get rid of the enemy as quickly as possible. This means that the countdown to Sarutobi Hiruzen's death has begun, and Yagyu must speed up to complete his work. Then, before the incident ends, go back to hand over to the shadow clone and create a perfect alibi. After a while, Yagyu arrived at the destination. In front of him is a shrine that has been abandoned for many years and is full of traces of time. Before the death of the fourth-generation Hokage, people often came here to clean. But with the death of the fourth-generation couple, no one has come here anymore. And this shrine is called the Mask Storage Hall. This is the building left by the Uzumaki clan in the Land of Fire during the Warring States period before they went to the island to establish the hidden village of Uzushio. Walking into the shrine, there are a large number of masks hanging on the walls covered with spider webs. These masks have different shapes and patterns, but each one is a ghost with fangs. Yagyu's eyes flashed red, and with a special red perspective, he swept his eyes over rows of masks and soon found that some masks exuded special chakra fluctuations. Obviously, they were all ninja tools with special abilities. Yagyu took off the masks and recognized one of them at a glance. It was the purpose of Yagyu's coming here. The mask of death that Orochimaru used to take back the souls of his hands and release the souls of the previous Hokage in the original work. Yagyu knew the effect of the mask of death, but he didn't know the effects of the other masks. But what is certain is that these masks should be related to the sealing technique of the Uzumaki clan. So, Yagyu stored the mask of death and these masks in the storage scroll, and then put the scroll into the space backpack. Coming out of the ancestral hall, Yagyu looked at the clear sky, feeling extremely happy, and suddenly wanted to let out a long roar. It was so smooth. What Yagyu had always longed for was now in his hands, and the degree of smoothness made Yagyu feel as if he had been blessed by heaven. But Yagyu knew that luck was only one of them. The biggest credit was his diary that recorded the main line and some important plots, as well as the planning for more than a month. If it wasn't the first C-rank mission, and he met Kuroki Raiga and the owner of the Blood Limit Red Eyes on the way back, Yagyu wouldn't have set his sights on Haku. If he hadn't obtained ice release and one-handed seal from Haku, and knew through experiments that Shadow Clone could increase the explosion rate, Yagyu wouldn't have had the bold idea of planning blood limit wood release and shaping the identity of the descendant of the Senju clan. If it wasn't for the flash of inspiration just now, and he remembered the way Orochimaru resurrected the previous Hokage, Yagyu wouldn't have come to look for the death mask. Now everything is ready, except for the impure world reincarnation of the previous Hokage, and asking Senju Tobirama for various forbidden techniques as a descendant, and asking Senju Hashirama for the secret of the wood release of the true thousand hands. Yagyu already has an idea, and it's just a matter of perfecting it. Zzz. The sound of electric currents intersecting sounded. Using the ninjutsu lightning armor and the lightning release chakra stimulation method together, Yagyu turned into a blue-white electric light and quickly returned to Konoha. On the way, Yagyu once again used Kagura's hard eye with all his strength and found that the chakra of Konoha ninjas had gathered. Obviously, they had escorted all the villagers to the shelter and began to work together to repel the enemy. Although Konoha is no longer the strongest ninja village, its foundation is still not to be underestimated. As the weakest and most powerful of the 5 major ninja villages, Sand Village, they did not have a full army, and they did not have a second shadow level except the 4th generation Wind Shadow. When Konoha began to fight back with all its strength and all the major ninja clans took action, the situation immediately became one-sided between Sand Ninja and Sound Ninja. The battle between the master and the apprentice on the roof of the VIP seats, as well as the battle between Naruto and Gaara's Jinchuriki, are also coming to an end. When Xiaoqiang went to support Uchiha Sasuke, they were chased by a large number of Sound Ninjas, and Kankuro also stayed behind to cover Temari and Gaara. Therefore, Yagyu's shadow clone took the initiative to lead the 8th team, Nara, Shikamaru and Sakura to deal with these Oto Nin and Kankuro, and the main goal was to slack off. From the beginning to the end, Yagyu had no intention of making a big splash in the Konoha collapse plan. As Orochimaru said, this incident will make Konoha, which has been stopped for many years, turn again. Although Yagyu knew that Sarutobi Hiruzen was old and would not be feared even if he exposed his ability of wood release, but would receive unprecedented attention and training, he still hoped that he would die. If he didn't die, it would indirectly give Shimura Danzo the confidence to make trouble. Even if he found out that Shimura Danzo was causing trouble, Sarutobi Hiruzen would at most blame his friend for a few words. After all, Shimura Danzo had long been stripped of his position as assistant to the Hokage, but he was still able to secretly train root ninjas. If Sarutobi Hiruzen hadn't died, and Yagyu had brought Karen back to Konoha, this Pot King would definitely have secretly targeted Karen. Yagyu didn't want to have something that would make him regret in the future, and even if he killed Shimura Danzo, it would not make up for it. Only when Sarutobi Hiruzen died, Konoha entered the era of Tsunade, and Karen was brought back to Konoha by Tsunade, Yagyu would be relieved. After all, in the original work, it was not until the end of the pain incident and Tsunade fell into a coma that Shimura Danzo found an opportunity to cause trouble. In these 3.5 years, he at most just arranged Sai to the new Team 7. From this, it can be seen that Tsunade's deterrent power is still quite sufficient. If you think about it carefully, it's right. Tsunade was found by Jiraiya, and she is still the goddess that Jiraiya has always liked. Jiraiya will definitely stand on her side without thinking. Dare to be an enemy of Tsunade, it means to be an enemy of the major ninja clans of Konoha, as well as Jiraiya and the daimyo. Shimura Danzo, who no longer has the position of assistant to the Hokage, really does not have the confidence to make trouble. Soon, Yagyu came to the vicinity of the Shadow Clone. Before he exchanged with the Shadow Clone, Yagyu saw 2 giant beasts fighting in the distance, causing a storm. These 2 giant beasts were the one-tailed Shukaku released by Gaara using the fake sleep technique, and the Toad Boss summoned by Naruto. The 2 giant beasts used wind escape and water escape respectively, and after the collision, they formed a storm that shattered Uchiha Sasuke's worldview. From childhood to adulthood, he had never seen such a big monster, and such an amazing technique with such power and range. At this moment, Uchiha Sasuke realized that Naruto, the last one, had unknowingly surpassed him. The confidence and expansion brought by learning Chidori were all destroyed at this moment. With only the last blow left, Uchiha Sasuke was about to take the first step towards blackening. Seeing this scene, Yagyu knew that the Konoha collapse plan was about to end. With the help of the red eye illusion and the lightning chakra stimulation method, Yagyu quickly completed the exchange with the shadow clone. At this time, the Otonin who was chasing them and Kankuro who was left behind were defeated by Yagyu's shadow clone commanding the 8th team and Nara Shikamaru. Let's go, Naruto's battle seems to be over. Yagyu took Hinata and others and went to the direction of Naruto and Uchiha Sasuke in an instant. After a while, they saw Naruto and Gaara lying on the ground, and Uchiha Sasuke and Temari who were protecting them. Kankuro. Looking at Kankuro who was carried by Aburame Shino and had lost consciousness, Temari's expression suddenly changed. Yagyu looked at Naruto who fell to the ground and asked knowingly, "Is that summoned beast just now Naruto's?" Yeah, Uchiha Sasuke nodded with a complicated expression. It looks like we won. Yagyu looked at Temari and asked, "Do you choose to surrender or fight to the death?" "We surrender." Looking at Yagyu and others who were unharmed, Temari said very tactfully. "A wise choice. Judging from your appearance, you should all be big figures in the Sand Village. This incident may not be able to do anything to you. We may meet again on the battlefield or in the social interaction between the two villages in the future. I don't want to embarrass you." Yagyu made a seal with one hand to create a shadow clone, and let it carry Gaara, who was powerless but not unconscious, but was shocked by Naruto's will and speechless. The main body warned Temari, "If you don't want your companions to get into trouble, then follow me obediently and don't play any tricks on me." "I know." Temari nodded obediently. So, Yagyu and his group returned the same way. Uchiha Sasuke also carried Naruto on his back and followed closely. Looking at Yagyu's shadow clone and Gaara on his back, Uchiha Sasuke heard the unconscious breathing of the last one in his ears, and his eyes were full of unwillingness. Yagyu was the only one who was stronger than him, and the gap was not very big. But now, there are at least 3 people of the same age who are stronger than him. Even the last one who has been chasing him has surpassed him unknowingly. When will he be able to kill that man when he is so weak? Thinking of this, Uchiha Sasuke's curse seal sealed by the evil seal suddenly exuded a hot breath, making his neck ache slightly. At the same time, the chakra that was obsessed with the Chunin exam, and the figure whose oppression was stronger than Momochi Zabuza and Hatake Kakashi, suddenly appeared in Uchiha Sasuke's mind. If it was that person, maybe he could make him stronger. Yagyu didn't know what Uchiha Sasuke was thinking, and he couldn't stop it even if he knew. After the age of 7, Uchiha Sasuke lived for revenge. As long as he can kill Uchiha Itachi, he is willing to pay any price. When Yagyu and others returned to the central street of Konoha, the Sand Ninja and Sound Ninja had already run away, died, and many people were captured. "I feel relieved to see that you are all right." Yagyu led the 8th team back to the square and found Yuhi Kurenai with Hatake Kakashi and Might Guy. Seeing Yagyu and others return, Yuhi Kurenai immediately breathed a sigh of relief. After seeing the 3 arrested Gaara siblings, she smiled in appreciation and said, "Well done, you have done a great job this time." "Teacher Hong, is the war over?" Yagyu looked at the roof of the VIP seats. The purple barrier had disappeared, and there were full of Anbu figures wearing black cloaks. "Yeah," Yuhi Kurenai nodded and said with a heavy face, "The Hokage-sama has sacrificed." Hearing this, Yagyu, Aburame Shino and others all changed their expressions. Of course, Yagyu's words should be put in double quotes. Yuhi Kurenai's words also announced that the era of Sarutobi Hiruzen's rule for decades has finally ended. A new era is coming. Just like the Nine Tails Rebellion, after the Konoha collapse plan was over, the atmosphere in the village was full of depression and sadness. Fortunately, the Nine Tails Rebellion happened 12 years ago, which allowed Konoha to react quickly and not cause too many villagers to be hurt. The most deaths were those ninjas who fought against the Sand Ninja and the Sound Ninja. However, the Ryuchidong snakes summoned by the Sound Ninja still destroyed a large number of buildings. If they did not use ninjutsu to help rebuild, it would probably take a lot of time to repair. But these are actually nothing. The biggest loss of Konoha in this incident is that they have lost the 3rd Hokage forever. The 5 Kage are the backbone of the 5 major ninja villages. The sacrifice of each Kage will reduce the morale of the village to the lowest level. If a new Kage is not selected quickly, the village will easily fall into panic. Those clients will also question and distrust the strength of this village. So the Konoha collapse plan had just ended, and the news spread in the land of fire. The daimyo immediately sent people to discuss with the elders of Konoha and ask them if they have candidates for the 5th Hokage. Of course, these are all later stories. The next day, the sky above Konoha was covered with dark clouds, and white light flashed in the heavy clouds, and the sound of muffled thunder sounded from time to time. The rain was brewing. At the Yagyu family, Yagyu walked out in a black long gown and trousers. Outside the door, the 3 Hinata girls who were waiting for Yagyu were also wearing black long gowns and trousers. In their hands, they also held a bunch of white chrysanthemums. The faces of the 3 girls were no longer smiling as usual, and they were full of seriousness. After leaving home, the 4 Yagyu people walked towards the place where the memorial service was held. Along the way, the 4 Yagyu people saw many people dressed the same as them. There were men and women, ninjas, and civilians. They all went to the memorial service to bid farewell to the 3rd generation of Hokage and the sacrificed ninjas. Boom. Crash. Yagyu and his friends had just arrived at the place where the memorial service was held, and suddenly there was a flash of lightning in the sky, and heavy rain fell with thunder. The rain curtain covered Konoha. After queuing up to present the white chrysanthemums, the Yagyu people stood at the back of the line to mourn. Some people were crying with their heads down, and some had no expression on their faces. The rain fell on everyone, causing these expressionless people to not be able to tell whether the water on their faces was rain or tears. The sad atmosphere made people feel very depressed. Even if Yagyu was not sad at all, he was also affected by the atmosphere and felt very heavy in his heart. Fortunately, the memorial service ended quickly, and Yagyu and others dispersed and went home on the spot. Affected by the atmosphere and the heavy rain, the 3 girls of Ino did not invite Yagyu to play or go to Yagyu's house for a party. I'm afraid they won't be able to recover in a few days. After the memorial service, the villagers began to build the village, and the top leaders also discovered the situation of the Hokage building in Tenzo, and have been investigating the mysterious man during this period. However, after seeing that no important ninjutsu scrolls were lost in the Forbidden Library, and the most important seal book had not been stolen, they could only give up temporarily because they could not find the mysterious man. Compared with searching for the mysterious man, choosing the 5th Hokage is the most important thing for Konoha. Udatain Kaharu and Midokado En found Jiraiya as soon as possible, hoping that he could become the 5th Hokage of Konoha. As a disciple of Sarutobi Hiruzen and the teacher of the 4th Hokage, Jiraiya is the best candidate for the 5th Hokage in terms of both strength and status. In this regard, Jiraiya certainly chose to refuse. However, in this situation, he can't refuse it just because he wants to. Facing the pressure of Udatain Kaharu and Midokado En, Jiraiya, like the original work, said that there are candidates who are more suitable to succeed the 5th Hokage than him. Hearing that Jiraiya can find Tsunade and have a way to persuade Tsunade to come back to succeed the position of Hokage, Udatain Kaharu and Midokado En were silent for a few seconds, and then chose to nod. Now in Konoha, the only candidate who is more suitable to become Hokage than Jiraiya is indeed Tsunade, the granddaughter of the 1st and 2nd Hokage. If Jiraiya and Tsunade's names are submitted, the daimyo will definitely choose Tsunade. This is the value of Konoha's orthodoxy. So, Jiraiya prepared to take Naruto out of the village to find Tsunade that day. On that day, Yagyu got up early, washed up and had breakfast, and came to the door of Yuhi Kurenai's house. Dong dong dong. The sound of knocking on the door sounded, and Yuhi Kurenai quickly opened her door. Looking at Yagyu in front of her, Yuhi Kurenai, who seemed to have just woken up, yawned and said, "It's Yagyu, come in." After that, she turned and walked towards the living room. However, she didn't notice that Yagyu behind her rubbed his nose, a little embarrassed. There was no way, Yuhi Kurenai really didn't treat him as an outsider. Maybe because she just woke up, Yuhi Kurenai was only wearing a red suspender pajamas, her shoulders, collarbones and delicate back were all exposed, and the hem of the skirt just covered her buttocks. The ivory long legs were like magnets, which attracted people's attention involuntarily. Ahem. Yagyu closed the door, changed into guest slippers at the entrance, sat down on the sofa in the living room, looked at Yuhi Hong in the kitchen, and coughed to remind him, "Teacher Hong, isn't it a bit inappropriate for you to wear this in front of a man? Wow, you are a 12-year-old kid, when did you become a man?" Yuhi Hong came out with a glass of milk, deliberately shook the glass in front of Yagyu, and said jokingly, "Besides, have you forgotten the nickname of our 8th class? When will you be 20 years old and be able to talk to the teacher? After drinking, let's talk about this again. Now drink your milk, little brat." Looking at Yagyu with black lines on his forehead, Yuhi Hong walked into the bathroom happily and started to wash up and change clothes. The corners of Yagyu's mouth twitched slightly. Although he is about the same height as Yuhi Kurenai, only a few centimeters shorter than Yuhi Kurenai wearing high heels, age is always a flaw and cannot be refuted. Picking up the milk, Yagyu took a sip. In order to keep healthy, he insisted on drinking a glass of milk every day. For the first time, he found this thing really annoying. "Tell me, come to the teacher so early, what's the matter?" Yuhi Kurenai quickly finished washing, put on her usual ninja clothes and came out. She also poured herself a glass of milk and sat across from Yagyu and asked. Yagyu straightened his expression and said, "I came here today to ask Hong-sensei to be my recommender for someone to join Konoha." Hearing this, Yuhi Hong's face couldn't help but become serious. She looked at Yagyu and asked, "Is he a foreigner you met during the Chunin exam?" Yagyu nodded and told Shang Lian's life experience. "She is the genin of the grass ninja village that I met during the 2nd exam. She is a descendant of the Uzumaki clan." "A descendant of the Uzumaki clan, are you sure?" Yuhi Hong opened her beautiful eyes wide and looked at Yagyu in surprise. "It's true. I have very good grades in history. It is written in the book that the Uzumaki clan was an ally of Konoha and a distant blood relative of the Senju clan, both during the Warring States period and the Ninja Village period." Yagyu said with certainty. "I felt an inexplicable sense of intimacy in her body. When I rescued her, she happened to be in a coma. When I treated her, I found that there were many different shapes and sizes on her arms. Fang marks, this is the unique healing ability of the Uzumaki clan, physical healing." "Does she have red hair?" "Yes. Then the possibility that she is a descendant of the Uzumaki clan is indeed very high." Yuhi Hong nodded and suddenly said, "Teacher can be her recommender, but teacher wants to remind you one thing, that is, outsiders who want to join Konoha must accept the review of the torture department. This is to prevent enemy spies. It is a necessary procedure to sneak into Konoha, even if she is really a descendant of the Uzumaki clan." "I know, and she accepted it. It seems that you guys are in constant contact, so is she in Konoha now?" "No, she is in Short Book Street in the Land of Fire." Yagyu shook his head and said honestly, "The Grass Ninja Village has always used her as a medical tool, and this time she came to Konoha to take the Chunin exam. I found out that she is a descendant of the Uzumaki clan, and after learning about her experience, I secretly help her leave Konoha and let her wait for me at Tanshu Street to avoid causing diplomatic trouble to the village." "Yes, you made a good decision." Yuhi Hong did not blame Yagyu for making his own decisions, but instead expressed recognition and praise for his actions. When it comes to diplomatic matters, it is not for ninjas like them to make decisions. It would be completely different if a descendant of the Uzumaki clan was found outside. As an ally of the Uzumaki clan, Konoha has the responsibility to help the descendants of their allies. As long as it is confirmed that the other party is really a descendant of the Uzumaki clan, and if no problems are found in the torture department's examination, then it will be a credit to them to bring the descendants of the Uzumaki clan back. "So," Yuhi Hong asked, "then when you came here today, did you plan to ask the teacher to go find her with you?" "Yes, after all, I am just a genin. It is difficult to obtain a certificate to leave the village. Come less. Seeing how familiar you are with her, you must have been sneaking out a lot this month." Yuhi gave Yagyu a red look and teased, "Isn't this how you practice the phantom teleportation technique?" "What phantom teleportation technique?" Lu Sheng looked confused. "That's the move you used to defeat Nara Shikamaru." "Oh, teacher, what are you talking about? Its principle is a special instant body created by combining the Naraku clone you taught me and the thunder release chakra stimulation method." "I almost believed it. Last time you said that Black Ho Thunderfang was immobilized by your golden binding technique, but the teacher wants to bring his head back, why are you panicking?" Yuhi Hong said. You continued to make up your mind and looked at Yagyu. Forehead. Looking at the speechless Yagyu, Kurenai Yuhi suddenly let out a "hoof," and smiled. Okay, the teacher knows your identity." There must be a lot of inheritance hidden in the family. Ninjas cannot easily leak their own information. It's a good thing to be so cautious. Hehe. Then please, Teacher Hong, please come with me. Seeing that Yuhi Hong seemed to have misunderstood something, Yagyu stopped talking, scratched his head and smiled. Okay, I can't do any tasks during this period of time anyway, so I just want to go out and relax. Yuhi Hong stood up, her eyes full of expectation. Chapter 71. Deciding to act, Yuhi Hong immediately packed her luggage and packed her backpack with a storage scroll. Looking at Yagyu with empty hands, Yuhi Hong couldn't help but ask, "Aren't you going to go back and pack your things?" Yagyu took out a storage scroll from his body and said with a smile, "I have already prepared it." Okay, it seems you expected that the teacher would definitely agree. Of course, Teacher Hong, you are the most gentle and kind teacher I have ever seen. You have such a sweet mouth, no wonder Hinata and the others can't live without you. If there wasn't a height difference, Kurenai Yuhi would definitely not be able to resist pinching Yagyu's face now. Yagyu's compliment indeed made her very happy. So, Yuhi Hong took Yagyu out of the house and went to the Hokage building to apply for a certificate of leaving the village. Just like Hatake Kakashi, as an elite Junin, can issue A-level tasks to genin like Yagyu in an emergency. Kurenai Yuhi, who was promoted from Special Junin to Junin at the beginning of the year, also has considerable privileges in the village. At least there is freedom when leaving the village. Just when Yuhi Kurenai had completed the certificate of leaving the village and left Konoha with Yagyu, Sarutobi Asuma, who had been in a bad mood these days because of his father's sacrifice, had been staying at home and smoking, finally walked out of the house. As if he suddenly made a decision, Sarutobi Asuma mustered up the courage to go to Yuhi Kurenai's door and knocked on Yuhi Kurenai's door. Dong dong dong. The knocks on the door kept ringing, but unfortunately there was no response. Seeing that Kurenai Yuhi was not at home, Sarutobi Asuma, who had finally worked up the courage to come over, immediately left like a deflated balloon, with his head lowered and shoulders slumped. The dejected look, coupled with the appearance of biting a cigarette, is full of melancholy. Neither Yuhi Kurenai nor Yagyu knew that not long after their front legs left, Asuma Sarutobi came over with his rear legs. At this time, they had handed over the certificate of leaving the village to the two gate gods Kamizuki Izumo and Gengzi Tetsu, and walked out of Konoha's gate. Before the village elects the 5th Hokage, the mission system will be temporarily suspended, and no one will be able to delegate missions or receive missions. So during this period, except for the ninjas guarding the borders and major cities, all other ninjas were on holiday. This was one of the reasons why Yuhi Hong decided to go out and relax. Since the Hokage's succession ceremony will be announced to the whole country in advance, and Tanshu Street is one of the small towns in the Land of Fire, Yuhi Hong and Yagyu are not in a hurry to use the teleportation technique, but walk as if traveling. On the way, Yuhi Hong and Yagyu were chatting. Yagyu, how did you release the Genjutsu Mayan? How should I put it? Actually, not all of them are released without seals. At least the illusions you taught me, Teacher Hong, I used to form seals with one hand to release them. It's just that the sealing speed was too fast and no one could detect it. As for the illusions released by Muji, I actually used sound to activate them. I learned this from a sound ninja who was good at sound illusions during the second exam. Quote, I see, I thought your yin escape chakra was so powerful that you didn't need to form a seal. Yuhi Hong suddenly realized that she believed Yagyu's lie. After all, the one-handed seal can indeed catch the enemy off guard. This is why Yagyu is so greedy for Dialogue's one-handed seal. And Yagyu has been practicing the speed of seal formation since he was a child. If he wanted to, he could indeed be like Uchiha Itachi, who could form seals so fast that it would be difficult to detect. Your current illusion skills are no less than my teacher. Yuhi Hong patted Yagyu on the shoulder and said with a smile, when you come back from Tanshu Street, you can come see the teacher more often when you have time, and we can learn about illusions. This may make us progress faster. Okay, Yagyu nodded obediently, but in his heart he was thinking about how to release the water. It's not that Yagyu looks down on Kurenai Yuhi, but that he is now only one pair of Mangekyo Sharingan away from the illusion masters like Uchiha Itachi. Uchiha Itachi and Uchiha Shisui can become illusion masters mainly because the output of the Mangekyo Sharingan is too powerful. The three Magatama Sharingan has been called the illusion eye and the hypnotic eye. Any illusion can be used without seal. When faced with enemies whose yin escape chakra is not as good as one's own, it also has its own illusion rebound. But the yin escape chakra output by the three Magatama Sharingan is not even qualified to lift the Mangekyo Sharingan's shoes. Because only the Mangekyo Sharingan can truly control tailed beasts. How much yin escape chakra does one need to output to control the tailed beast at a glance? Uchiha Obito, who has half of his body covered with Hashirama cells, even used only one Mangekyo Sharingan to control Goju Yagura, one of the 5 cages. The talent of an illusion expert emerged from Yuhihi Kurenai, and the moment the Sharingan evolved into the three Magatama Sharingan, Yuhihi Kurenai was no longer Yagyu's opponent. Although his strength was far above that of Yuhi Kurenai, Yagyu did not disrespect his mentor. Just like Metkai was willing to teach the 8-gate Dunjia to his students, Yuhi Hong had already taught them the Yuhi family's illusions not long after she met the Yagyu 3. If Aburame Shino and Hinata had yin-type chakra, they would now also be Genjutsu-type ninjas. In addition to the perception class, Class 8 would also be called the Genjutsu class. Therefore, Yagyu is grateful and respectful to Yuhi Hong. Yagyu even decided that after Konoha joined Konoha, he would use Konoha as a shield to teach Yuhi Kurenai some sealing techniques. Especially the yin seal of the Uzumaki clan, Yagyu believes that Yuhi Kurenai will not be able to refuse it. After all, which woman can refuse to stay young forever? Of course, Yuhi Kurenai does not know Yagyu's thoughts. If she knew, she would be very moved and relieved. A good teacher must also meet a good student. Otherwise, it is not only one-sided, but sometimes it will teach some traitors who do not respect the teacher and kill the teacher. By the way, Yuhi Kurenai's ruby-like beautiful eyes suddenly lit up, and asked with expectation, "Yagyu, did you bring a camera with you?" "I brought it, Teacher Hong, do you want to take pictures?" "Well, it's rare to go out of the village without a mission, how can I not leave some good memories?" Yuhi Kurenai suddenly flew out in an instant, and her voice echoed in the air, "Take the camera and follow me, I want to take pictures in a few places." Looking at Yuhi Kurenai's disappearing back, Yagyu also became interested. He took out the film camera from the space backpack and chased after her in an instant. The characteristic of the Fire Country is that there are many forests, and lush trees, cliffs and waterfalls can be seen everywhere. The place where Yuhi Kurenai took Yagyu was very similar to the waterfall where Yagyu practiced. Next, Yuhi Kurenai posed in various poses beside the waterfall and asked Yagyu to take pictures of her. Then she gathered chakra with her feet and stood on the river, or came to the bottom of the waterfall, so that Yagyu could take pictures of the steamy scene. Yagyu kept pressing the shutter, looking up at the sky from time to time, directing Yuhi Kurenai's position according to the direction of the light, and taking pictures of the beauty in the waterscape. At the end, Yuhi Kurenai suddenly said, "Yagyu, let's take a photo together." Okay. Yagyu did not refuse, and made a shadow clone with one hand, then handed the camera to the shadow clone, and the real body came to Yuhi Kurenai and faced the shadow clone together with her. Yuhi Kurenai put his arm around Yagyu's shoulders, smiling brightly, and his beautiful eyes curved into a crescent. Yagyu also put one hand in his pocket, smiling. Click. As the shutter sounded, the background of this picture was a waterfall, and the surrounding was filled with water vapor, just like the picture of the master and apprentice in the clouds of the fairyland, and it was preserved forever. When the photos are developed, I believe that they will be framed by Shiri Hong and placed on her desk. After the group photo, Shiri Hong took Lu Sheng to several places with good scenery to continue taking photos and group photos. Until noon, Shiri Hong's stomach protested, and the black-haired sister with a blushing face threatened Lu Sheng to forget the sound he had just heard, and took Lu Sheng to the nearest town for dinner. After dinner, the two continued to travel while enjoying the mountains and rivers. It was not until the afternoon, when the sun was about to set, that they prepared to use the instant body technique to travel, ready to find a village and town to rest before nightfall. Ding dang ding dang. At this moment, the two suddenly heard the crisp and pleasant sound of wind chimes in their ears. In front of the forest road, two figures appeared at some point, walking slowly towards them. Seeing these two figures, both Yuhi Kurenai and Yagyu's pupils shrank. The former sensed the breath of the strong, and his body instinctively tensed. The latter recognized them. There was no way, the clothes of these two figures left a deep impression on Yagyu, a time traveler. Loose black windbreaker embroidered with red clouds, and a hat with wind chimes on his head. Even if he couldn't see their appearance, Yagyu recognized their identities at a glance. Uchiha Itachi and Hoshigaki Kisame. Yagyu's mood was a little heavy. He didn't expect that in such a remote place, he could meet Uchiha Itachi and Hoshigaki Kisame, who were preparing to return to Konoha to warn Shimura Danzo under the pretext of spying on Konoha's intelligence. Teacher Kurenai, don't be impulsive, they are very strong. Yagyu reminded in a voice that only the two of them could hear. Yuhi Kurenai nodded, and her heart was extremely heavy. Without Yagyu's reminder, she could also sense an unprecedented sense of oppression from the two. There is no doubt that these two people are strong, and the faces under the bamboo hats may be the familiar people she has seen in the ninja manual. Why would such strong people appear in the territory of the Land of Fire? And with this direction of travel, they are very likely to go to Konoha. Then what are they going to Konoha for? Thinking of this, Yuhi Kurenai dared not act impulsively, not only for the safety of Yagyu, but also to send a message back after pulling away from these two people, so that the people in the village will be alert to these two mysterious people. Meeting on the forest road is sometimes as embarrassing as meeting on the sidewalk. If either party moves without authorization, it is equivalent to exposing their thoughts. If one of them is fine, it would be fine, but the key is that both parties have their own thoughts. So just like when the 8th team passed by the Black Ho family, Yuhi Kurenai and Yagyu, as well as Uchiha Itachi and Hoshigaki Kisame, did not make any moves, pretending that they were just ordinary passers-by. However, when the four people passed by, an accident still happened. Tear. The big sword Samahata wrapped with white bandages on Hoshigaki Kisame's back suddenly shook violently as if it had smelled the best smell in the world, and then its barbed body broke through the white bandages, opened its bloody mouth and pounced on the source of the fragrance, that is, Yagyu's body. Yuhi Kurenai and Yagyu, who had been on alert for the two, dodged in an instant. Facing Uchiha Itachi and Hoshigaki Kisame, Yagyu flew backwards in the air, his cheeks puffed up, and he spit out a super high-pressure straight water column from his mouth, cutting towards Uchiha Itachi and Hoshigaki Kisame with the sound of tearing the air. Hoshigaki Kisame grabbed the handle of Samahata's knife and disappeared with Uchiha Itachi in an instant. Yagyu, with a flash of red in his eyes, controlled the straight water column to move towards the 3 o'clock direction. Rumble. Trees were cut in half and fell to the ground, raising dust and deafening noises. This straight water column was exactly water-style water break wave. After developing all the photos, Yagyu first learned not the wood-style ninjutsu, nor the sealing technique that was the easiest to kill enemies above their level, but the water-style ninjutsu of Senju Tobarama. Because Yagyu has been practicing the nature change of water escape since he was a child, and relying on the chakra control from Sakura, he developed the spiral water tornado and S-level hard vortex water blade according to his own imagination. Yagyu is definitely the best in Konoha in water escape. He only needs to spend some time to develop various water escapes. If he gets the training methods of other water escape ninjutsu, mastering them will be as simple and easy as one-click comprehension in the game. After the straight water column cut off countless trees and turned a forest into a logging site, Yagyu suddenly stopped spitting water as if he saw something. Hualala. The sound of surging water sounded. A huge wave dispersed the dust and mist that was spreading, and roared towards Yagyu and Yuhi Kurenai. Yagyu and Yuhi Kurenai, who had just landed, immediately disappeared again and appeared on the top of a big tree. The water waves scattered, and the amazing water flow turned the surrounding area into a lake, and the water level submerged the middle of the tree trunk. On the lake surface where the tree had been lost, two figures with their hats removed stood. Hoshigaki Kisame held Samahata, which was shaking constantly, as if urging something. On his shark-like face, he couldn't help but reveal a ferocious smile, and said, "The kid who can make Samahata want to eat uncontrollably, Mr. Itachi, can't he be the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki?" "No," Uchiha Itachi said calmly. "The Nine-Tails Jinchuriki is the posthumous son of the 4th Hokage. His hair color and eye color are the same as the 4th Hokage." Hearing this, Hoshigaki Kisame smiled even more. He is not the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki, but he has the chakra that makes Samahata excited, and that extremely powerful water-style ninjutsu. Mr. Itachi, your Konoha is worthy of being the cradle of geniuses. That water-style ninjutsu should be the second Hokage's water-style water break wave. Uchiha Itachi said expressionlessly, but he sighed slightly in his heart. As expected of the chief student who could suppress Sasuke, he was not a civilian orphan. Yes, Uchiha Itachi knew Yagyu. He didn't recognize him at first because Yagyu grew too fast. Now, after carefully looking at Yagyu's hair color and eye color, Uchiha Itachi just remembered him. As a brother control like Uchiha Madara, Uchiha Itachi has always been paying attention to Uchiha Sasuke silently. Before he exterminated the clan, Uchiha Sasuke was already 7 years old. Yagyu got Ashura Chakra at the age of 6. He beat Uchiha Sasuke to get the title of chief student, and of course, Uchiha Itachi knew it. I thought Yagyu was another civilian genius, but now it seems that the other party may be the strongest monster in Sasuke's class. From the perspective of Uchiha Itachi's Sharingan, the chakra in Yagyu's body is not inferior to that of Hoshigaki Kisame next to him. You know, Hoshigaki Kisame is a man known as the tailless-tailed beast. And Yagyu, who is only 12 years old this year, is in the growth stage of his body. When he is the same age as Hoshigaki Kisame, how amazing will his chakra be? Could it be that he is a descendant of the Senju clan and awakened the blood of the Senju clan in the previous generation? No, even if he is the blood of the Senju clan, his chakra cannot be so exaggerated. His body must be hiding some unknown secrets, which leads to such an amazing amount of chakra. Uchiha Itachi thought to himself. Mr. Itachi, since we have been discovered, should we get rid of them? Kisame Hoshigaki smiled intriguingly. Otherwise, when we arrive in Konoha, what awaits us may be Konoha's trap. Uchiha Itachi was silent for a few seconds, and slowly said, "This is the territory of the Land of Fire. After passing a small town, it is Konoha. There may be Konoha ninjas passing by here at any time. We must kill them as quickly as possible." Understood, leave that kid to me. Kisame Hoshigaki rarely showed his fighting spirit, and said with a ferocious smile, "The amount of chakra of that kid, and that powerful water escape, gave me a bold guess, so I want to confirm it myself." As if he understood what Kisame Hoshigaki said, Samahata, who was held by him, shook violently again, full of desire for Yagyu's chakra. That person is Uchiha Itachi. At this time, Kurenai Yuhi also recognized Uchiha Itachi, and his red pupils shrank to the limit. When she saw Hoshigaki Kisame next to Uchiha Itachi, cold sweat broke out on her forehead, and her voice even trembled slightly as she said, "There is also the mist-hidden monster, Hoshigaki Kisame. Why are these 2S-level rebels here?" There was no time to think. Seeing Hoshigaki Kisame holding Samahata and running on the water, Yuhi Kurenai hurriedly shouted, "Yagyu, let's run away, they are all top-level rebels, we are not their opponents." Teacher Kurenai is right. Yagyu nodded, and said seriously, "Such dangerous people appear here together, they must have unknown purposes. From the direction they are heading, they are likely to go to Konoha. Now that we have seen through their identities, they will definitely not allow us to leave. With our strength, it is difficult to escape the pursuit of 2S-level rebels, so. Teacher Kurenai, you run first, I will stay to cover you." No, Yuhi Kurenai immediately shook her head and said, "Teacher can't leave you alone, and it is the teacher who stays to cover you." Quote, "Don't be willful, Teacher Hong." Looking at Hoshigaki Kisame who was getting closer and closer, Yagyu said in a deep voice, "Since you saw how I defeated Shikamaru, you should know my instant body speed. Let me stay behind to cover the rear, we both have a chance of survival." No need to say. Yuhi Kurenai took out a kunai from the ninja tool bag and said with a firm face, "If we are going to die, we will die together. The teacher can't abandon his disciples and run away by himself." Seeing Yuhi Kurenai's attitude was extremely firm, Yagyu did not continue to persuade, but raised the corner of his mouth slightly and said, "In this case, let's join forces to fight the enemy." Well, let Uchiha Itachi be dealt with by the teacher. Yuhi Kurenai inadvertently said the most arrogant words. Water escape Mizusume bullet technique. Quote, the shout of Hoshigaki Kisame reached their ears, and the water flow under the big tree where Yagyu and Kurenai were located immediately changed into a huge water shark, opened its huge mouth, and rushed towards Yagyu and Kurenai from bottom to top. Swoosh! Yagyu and Kurenai disappeared in an instant. Kurenai gathered chakra on her feet and appeared on the water surface, running towards Uchiha Itachi, who was motionless in the distance. Yagyu also appeared on the water surface, with a skateboard formed by the water flow under his feet, carrying him towards Hoshigaki Kisame at a very fast speed. On the way, Yagyu took out a kunai from his ninja tool bag, covered it with water escape chakra, and quickly formed a liquid water blade. Such a change in the nature and shape of water escape, it seems that my guess is right. Quote. Seeing this scene, the fighting spirit and smile on Hoshigaki Kisame's face became stronger. That was the excitement of finding a kindred spirit. So, a skateboard formed by water flow appeared under Hoshigaki Kisame's feet, and he rushed towards Yagyu at a very fast speed. The two of them were like surfing on the sea, and soon they were about to collide face to face. Just when the two were about to collide, Yagyu suddenly jumped up, and the water blade in his hand changed from reverse grip to forward grip, and slashed down at Hoshigaki Kisame. Hoshigaki Kisame also held the handle of Samahata with both hands and hit Yagyu with an uppercut. Bang! The water blade collided with Samahata covered with barbs, and the violent air wave roared out immediately, forming a huge cyclone, raising circles of ripple-like waves on the lake. The water blade in Yagyu's hand failed to leave a trace on Samahata's body. Not only that, the water escape technique covering the kunai chakra, and disappeared quickly, obviously absorbed by Samahata. Yagyu was not surprised, he had known Samahata's ability for a long time. The reason why he used water blade slash to fight Hoshigaki Kisame in close combat was for this moment. While Samahata was absorbing chakra, Yagyu suddenly bulged his mouth and spit out several water needles at Hoshigaki Kisame, whose face changed slightly, aiming at Hoshigaki Kisame's eyes and face. If he was pierced by these water needles, Hoshigaki Kisame would definitely go blind on the spot. At this time, a shark formed by a stream suddenly emerged from the water and swallowed Hoshigaki Kisame into its mouth. The body of the water shark not only helped Hoshigaki Kisame block the attack of the water needle, but also jumped into the lake with Hoshigaki Kisame's body, quickly pulling away from Yagyu. A few seconds later, the water shark jumped out of the lake more than 10 meters away and turned into a stream and dissipated. The unharmed Hoshigaki Kisame carried Samahata on his shoulders, grinned at Yagyu and said, "Such insidious tactics and water escape, as well as the characteristics of silver hair and red eyes, you are indeed a descendant of the Senju clan." Yagyu didn't have time to chat with Hoshigaki Kisame. After seeing that he couldn't trick him, Yagyu glanced in the direction of Kurenai Yuhi and immediately decided to confront him head-on. Yagyu raised his right hand, palm facing up, and a blue chakra cyclone emerged out of thin air, forming a blue mini tornado in the blink of an eye. The next second, the color of the mini tornado became even bluer. The moisture in the air gathered and merged into the mini tornado, turning the cyclone into a stream of water. Then, Yagyu threw the mini water tornado in his hand towards Hoshigaki Kisame. As soon as the mini water tornado left his palm, the suction force transformed from the chakra vortex immediately rolled up the water flow on the lake surface and absorbed the moisture in the air, making the water tornado grow rapidly. In a few blinks, it became a water tornado several meters high, sweeping towards Hoshigaki Kisame. It's the unmarked water escape technique, a technique I've never seen before. It seems that I underestimated you. Kisame Hoshigaki was surprised, while putting Samahata back behind his back, quickly forming seals with both hands, and making a push forward, shouting, "Water escape technique. Big Samadin technique." A giant water shark that was many times larger than the previous water Samadin technique immediately jumped out of the lake, opened its huge mouth, and roared towards the sweeping water tornado. The giant water shark and the water tornado collided, but there was no explosion scene that cancelled each other out, nor was there a scene of equal wrestling. Instead, the water tornado was instantly defeated, and the water chakra and water flow were all absorbed by the water shark, causing the already huge water shark to crash into Yagyu like a hill. Zzzzz. The sound of electric currents intersecting sounded, and Yagyu was surrounded by blue and white arcs. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared from the spot, leaving the giant water shark empty. When Yagyu appeared again, he had already arrived in the air a few meters to the left of Hoshigaki Kisame, holding a water dart in his hand, but he did not aim at Hoshigaki Kisame and threw it out, but threw the water dart at the lake a few meters away from Hoshigaki Kisame. Seeing this water dart, Hoshigaki Kisame finally changed his face, and used the water dart technique again without hesitation, turning the water flow into a shark that ate himself, and sank into the lake and fled quickly. Boom! Just as he fled far away, a loud bang exploded. The water javelin burst out with terrifying chakra, and immediately formed a huge water tornado, absorbing the lake water, and in the blink of an eye, it formed a water tornado that was several sizes larger than the spiral water tornado. Water style. Big explosion water wave. Hoshigaki Kisame, who fled far away to avoid the attack of the hard vortex water blade, spit out an amazing stream of water from his mouth again, causing the water level and area of the lake, which was slowly dropping, to surge again. Then, he continued to make a seal. Water style, rain 4 sharks. The amazing tonnage of water flow formed 4 huge water sharks, which jumped vertically from the lake to the left, right, front and back of Yagyu, flew several meters high in the air, and pounced on Yagyu one after another. Water style, water wave. Yagyu clapped his hands, and the surrounding water flow swirled up, and in the blink of an eye, a water tornado formed to wrap up Yagyu. 4 huge water sharks crashed into the high-speed rotating water wall of the waterspout, and instantly turned into thousands of mini sharks. Unfortunately, they failed to break through the water wall of the waterspout, but rotated like the clothes in the drum washing machine. Finally, the chakra was exhausted and turned into water flow to expand the size of the waterspout. In the end, the waterspout spread like a waterfall, turned into a big river, and like the whip of the sea god, it slapped down towards Hoshigaki Kisame in the distance. Although the power was huge, the pre-swing was too obvious. Just like the giant water shark that Hoshigaki Kisame just used, Hoshigaki Kisame just avoided the slap of the river with just a flash. However, the water flow that exploded from the river turned into a rain curtain that submerged Hoshigaki Kisame, making the smile on his face from the heart even more ferocious. In just a few minutes, Yagyu and Hoshigaki Kisame performed several advanced and ultimate water escape ninjutsu. The chakra required for each water escape could instantly drain a senior ninja. The water jutsu duel between the two was like a fight between 2 sea gods. Just when the two were fighting fiercely and evenly matched, the battle on the other side was over. Just like the original work, Kurenai Yuhi, who had just been promoted to Jonin for a few months, had no experience of fighting with the Sharingan at all. In addition, the Uchiha clan had been extinct for several years, and the Sharingan, a bloodline limit, had become one of the legendary bloodline limits. Kurenai Yuhi, who had never fought with Hatake Kakashi, did not know that the Uchiha clan's 3 Magatama Sharingan was completely different from the 3 Magatama Sharingan transplanted by outsiders. Although Kurenai Yuhi did not dare to underestimate Uchiha Itachi, the S-level rebel ninja, she used the magic tree binding with all her strength to try to deprive Uchiha Itachi of control of his body, and then cast an attack-type illusion on him. But the big tree transformed by Yin-Tun Chakra just appeared, stretched out tentacle-like vines to tie up Uchiha Itachi, and the scene in front of Kurenai Yuhi suddenly changed. Just as she was about to cast a hand seal to perform an attacking illusion, she found that her body could not move. Uchiha Itachi, who was originally a certain distance away from her, had stood in front of her without her knowing when. Looking up, Yuhi Kurenai found that she had actually switched places with Uchiha Itachi, and the person tied up by the magic tree binding kill had become her. Kurenai Yuhi looked at Uchiha Itachi in horror. When will the illusion rebound? From the moment you looked at me. Uchiha Itachi stretched out his palm from his cuffs, held a kunai and stabbed it into Yuhi Kurenai's body. He said calmly, "I didn't want to kill you, Miss Kurenai. If I'm to blame, it's your fault for discovering us. As a former colleague, let me give you a gentle death." After finishing speaking, Uchiha Itachi's 3 Magatama Sharingan suddenly turned into a triangle shuriken pattern. The yin escape chakra, which even the tailed beast could not resist, immediately seeped into Yuhi Kurenai's brain through her eyes, controlling the chakra in her brain nerves. Just by looking at Uchiha Itachi, Yuhi Kurenai's expression became dull, and her whole person was like a puppet. The vines and trees that bound her disappeared into thin air. Yuhi Hong with a kunai stuck in her belly fell into the lake and slowly sank. The surrounding water was red mixed with blood. "Teacher Hong." Yagyu's angry voice sounded. "Water release, water dragon blast." A huge whirlpool of water suddenly appeared at the feet of Uchiha Itachi. The water flow gathered and formed a huge dragon's mouth, about to swallow Uchiha Itachi. Whoosh! Uchiha Itachi disappeared out of thin air in an instant, leaving the dragon's mouth empty. Then a huge water dragon rose into the sky and bit down at Uchiha Itachi, who appeared not far away. Fire escape. Fire is extinguished. Itachi Uchiha's palms hidden in his sleeves quickly formed a seal, spitting out a wisp of fire from his mouth, which instantly turned into a huge flaming arrow, which collided with the water dragon that bit down. Boom! Along with the huge explosion, thick fog-like water vapor spread. This scene seemed to be a reminder to Yagyu. Thick white fog appeared out of thin air, turning the lake into a dense fog zone. Seeing the thick fog, Uchiha Itachi remained expressionless, but he was secretly relieved. Fortunately, he wasn't a reckless person, otherwise he wouldn't have known how to create an opportunity for them to escape. That boy was worthy of being a top student, even better than Sasuke. I hope the other party will not take his anger out on Sasuke because of his actions. Uchiha Itachi said helplessly in his heart. When the thick fog dissipated, Yagyu and Kurenai's chakra had disappeared. Mr. Itachi, they seem to have escaped. Kisame Kazaki returned to Uchiha Itachi, as if he hadn't seen Uchiha Itachi release the water, and asked, "Our identity has been discovered, do we still want to go to Konoha?" Continue. Uchiha Itachi said calmly, "Miss Hong has been hit by my kaleidoscope illusion. It will take some time to wake up. We just need to complete the task quickly." Hearing this, Kisame Kazaki asked slightly worriedly, "Mr. Itachi, did you use that technique?" "No, she is not worthy of me using Tsukuyomi," Uchiha Itachi said coldly. After putting on his hat, he walked towards Konoha. Kisame Kazaki followed closely behind, with a reply on his face, "I haven't fought so happily for a long time. It's a pity that kid can't let go. Otherwise, I really want to see how full his strength is, and I don't know if I can meet him again in the future." Yes, after all, the Nine Tails Jinchuriki is in Konoha. That's right, I really hope the leader's plan can start soon. Whoosh! In the dense forest, a figure appeared out of thin air on the top of a towering tree, hugged by more than a dozen people. Yagyu, who had fled for several miles with Yuhi Hong, finally put Yuji down in his arms and helped her check her injuries. Tear it apart. The sound of tearing cloth sounded, and Yagyu tore a hole in Yuhi Kurenai's clothes. Looking at the position of Kunai, he couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief and said, "Fortunately, it's one of our own, otherwise, Teacher Kurenai, you would be really in trouble this time." Uchiha Itachi's kunai did not stab Yuhi Kurenai's fatal part. This ruthless man who killed his own family and even his own parents for the sake of the village really had nothing to say about his own people. He was worthy of being a 7-year-old Hokage-like thinker, the perfect successor to the Will of Fire. If he was as ruthless as when he exterminated the clan, the most Yagyu could do was escape on his own, and he wouldn't be able to save Yuhi Kurenai at all. Not counting Nagato, the super shadow level gatekeeper, Uchiha Itachi is now one of the strongest in the ninja world. Tsukuyomi, Amaterasu, Izanagi, Izanami, Susanoo, Juken Sword, Yata Mirror, Betsutenjin, each one has a bug level ability. If Madara Uchiha is the Uchiha who developed the Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan to the extreme, then Itachi Uchiha is the one who developed the Mangekyo Sharingan to the extreme. The other Uchiha awakening Mangekyo, who were either exclusive Ijutsu or Susanoo, quickly blinded themselves. However, Uchiha Itachi has fully activated the potential of the Mangekyo Sharingan, and he is not blind yet. Just like the if version of Xianglian, there also existed the if version of Uchiha Itachi in various forms in Yagyu's previous life. If he is not plagued by illness, and if he gets the Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, is he stronger than the Eternal Eyes Uchiha Madara? To be assumed by so many people and compared to Uchiha Madara is enough to show how powerful Uchiha Itachi is. In the original work, Uchiha Itachi is also one of the few undefeated gods of war. Fortunately, such a ruthless person is one of his own, otherwise Yagyu would be really guilty. Although Yagyu was not afraid of Itachi Uchiha, he was fully confident that he could escape from the hands of the strongest duo of the Akatsuki organization. But he couldn't save Yuhi Kurenai from the hands of the strongest duo. All kinds of water escapes couldn't do anything to Kisame. Yagyu wanted to use wood escape just now. Fortunately, Uchiha Itachi created a chance for him and allowed him to successfully rescue Yuhi Kurenai. Yagyu did not immediately pull out the kunai from Yuhi Kurenai's body, but opened the 3 Magatama Sharingan eyes to check Yuhi Kurenai's current condition. Soon, Yagyu breathed a sigh of relief again. Yuhi Kurenai's mental state is normal, which shows that the kaleidoscope illusion in her is not Uchiha Itachi's exclusive pupil technique, Tsukuyomi. Otherwise, unless a medical master like Tsunade takes action, Yuhi Kurenai will have to lie down for a week at least, or it may take a month to wake up. Even so, it would take several days for Yuhi Kurenai to wake up. At this time, there was a very powerful yin escape chakra in the nerves of her brain, which was controlling the chakra in her brain, immersing her in the world of illusion. Yagyu had no ability to expel this yin escape chakra, and Yuhi Kurenai had no ability to disperse this yin escape chakra. He could only wait for it to disappear naturally. Obviously, Uchiha Itachi was serious about taking action. After all, his identity as a double agent is only known to a few people in the top management of Konoha. In the eyes of Konoha ninja, he was an S-class rebellious ninja who destroyed his own family. If Kurenai Yuhi was still awake, she would definitely send information about him and Kisame Inagaki back to Konoha. Uchiha Itachi returned to Konoha this time just to warn Danzo Shimura and tell him that even if Sarutobi Hiruzen died, he, Uchiha Itachi, was still alive. By the way, let's see if we can find an opportunity to reveal to them the information that the Akatsuki organization's target is the Jinchuriki. We don't want to go on a killing spree in Konoha. After seeing that Yuhi Kurenai's spirit was not hurt, Yagyu pulled out the kunai and used medical ninjutsu to treat Yuhi Kurenai. Possessing the best yang release chakra in the ninja world, Yagyu's medical ninjutsu is full of life. Even the lowest level of healing techniques are more powerful than A-level palm ninjutsu. If Kurenai Yuhi bites him, the injury will definitely be the same as Muji's healing, and he will recover instantly. After a while, Yuhi Hong's injury healed without leaving even a shallow scar. When the yin escape chakra in Yuhi Hong's brain disappears, she will wake up. So, Yagyu picked up Yuhi Hong on his back and sped away in the direction of Tanshu Street. This time at full speed, Yagyu arrived at Tanshu Street in only 3 hours. By this time, night had already fallen. Dong dong dong. Lu Sheng suddenly came to Shang Lu's residence and knocked on Shang Lu's door. Yagyu-kun, you are here. Before the door opened, Yagyu heard the girl's surprised voice inside. When the wooden door opened from the inside, a red-haired girl wearing a cute white pajamas and a pair of flat-rimmed glasses immediately caught his sight. I kept you waiting for a long time, Shang Lu, I'm here to pick you up. Yagyu said with a smile. A bright smile suddenly appeared on Shang Ling's face, but the next second, she saw Yuhi Hong behind Yagyu Sheng, and quickly asked, Yagyu, this is? She is my teacher Kurenai Yuhi, and she is also the person who recommended you to join Konoha. Yagyu explained simply. We encountered a rebellious ninja on the way here. The teacher was injured and unconscious. Let me go in and put the teacher down first. Yes, yes, yes. Yagyu-kun, come in quickly. Karen quickly moved aside and let Yagyu carry Yuhi Kurenai in. After closing the door, Karen rolled up her sleeves to reveal her forearms, and asked with a worried look on her face, how is your teacher's injury? Does she need my ability to treat her? No, Kurenai was just hit by the enemy's illusion and fell into a temporary coma. Yagyu shook his head and said, when the Yinten chakra in her brain disappears, she will wake up. Let her rest here for a few days. It's good, it's good. Karen breathed a sigh of relief and said with a guilty look on her face, I'm sorry, I have caused you trouble. Just after putting Yuhi Kurenai, Yagyu, who got to the bed, couldn't help but rubbed Karen's head and smiled. Don't think too much, it's just a coincidence. After that, Yagyu began to change the subject. How have you been these days? Have you mastered all the ninjutsu I taught you? Karen nodded repeatedly and said, I have mastered all the medical ninjutsu and water escape ninjutsu that you taught me, Yagyu-kun. As expected of a descendant of the Uzumaki clan, Karen's chakra control talent is as good as one of my friends. Yagyu praised and increased the intensity of the head pat. Hee. Karen, whose attention was diverted, immediately showed a silly smile like a nympho. Then, Karen seemed to have thought of something and asked hurriedly, by the way, Yagyu-kun, have you eaten? Not yet. Yagyu shook his head and said, I had a fight with the rebel ninja on the way here, and I have been on the road for the past few hours. Then I will go to cook for you now. Yagyu did not refuse, but said, put some hot water in my hand first, I need to take a shower first. Okay. Karen immediately walked out of the room and went to the bathroom to help Yagyu put some hot water in, and then went to the closet in the next room to help Yagyu get clothes and make the bed. Her movements were extremely skillful, and it was obviously not the first time she did this. As the ultimate licker, Karen put herself in a very low position, so humble that it made people feel distressed. There was no way, she was different from the three girls of Ino. The three girls of Ino were childhood sweethearts who had grown up with Yagyu, and their relationship was just a matter of time. Karen met Yagyu not long ago, and was pulled out of the abyss by Yagyu, becoming the only light in her heart. As the saying goes, before seeing the light, I could have endured the darkness. But after seeing the light and feeling the warmth, Karen was afraid of losing Yagyu's favor and attention. This fear made Karen subconsciously want to please Yagyu. When the three Ino girls were greedy, they would not refuse Yagyu to cook for them. But during the half-month of living with Karen, Yagyu never entered the kitchen. It was not that he did not want to enter, but Karen did not let him enter. During that time, Yagyu was served by Karen and was almost served food and clothes. Yagyu wanted to correct Karen's character more than once, so that she would not be so inferior. Unfortunately, the effect was very general. I am afraid that she will have to wait until she joins Konoha and realizes the value of the Uzumaki clan under the protection of Tsunade. After her identity and strength bring confidence, her character can slowly change. So, Yagyu no longer forced it, and gradually adapted to Karen's service. In the bathroom, after washing her body, Yagyu lay in the bathtub to relieve fatigue. Looking at the ceiling filled with steam, Yagyu, who became calm in his heart, began to review the battle with Hoshigaki Kisame. After learning the water escape ninjutsu of Senju Tobarama, Yagyu's current water escape attainment is definitely among the top 3 in the ninja world. If only water escape is used, Hoshigaki Kisame can't do anything to Yagyu, and Yagyu can't do anything to him either. However, the opponent did not merge with Samahata, and Yagyu did not use wood escape. If they go all out, it's really hard to tell who is stronger. After all, Yagyu has not learned advanced wood escape ninjutsu, and water escape is now his strongest means. But it is certain that even if Yagyu only uses water escape, he is still a first-class strongman in the ninja world. In the 5 major ninja villages, he is just an ace combat force on the surface, but in fact, if there is no suitable candidate, he has a chance to become an elite ninja of the shadow. The only ones who can tie with him are water escape ninjas like Hoshigaki Kisame and fire escape ninjas of the same level. The only ones who can restrain Yagyu are Hoshigaki Kisame, who has merged with Samahata and can absorb the opponent's ninjutsu chakra, as well as earth escape ninjas of the same level, or other special types of ninjas. For example, Uchiha Itachi, who can pull the enemy into the Tsukuyomi space with a glance, causing the opponent to suffer real mental damage in the illusion space, and Uchiha Obito, who carries an alien space with him, and flying ninjas, etc. However, each of these people is a leader at the level of Kage, and even the 5 Kages are not sure to defeat them, and there is a high probability that they will overturn. Among his peers, Yagyu is already leading by a gap. Thinking of this, Yagyu couldn't help but soak his body in the water, feeling very happy. After traveling through 12 years, I finally feel a little safe. After taking a bath, Yagyu came out in pajamas. At this time, Karen had already prepared a simple dinner for him. While eating dinner, Yagyu chatted with Karen, but in his heart he was thinking about when it would be better to teach Karen the sealing technique. Karen must master the sealing technique, so that Yagyu has a reason to teach it to Ino, Sakura and Yuhi Kurenai, and he can use it openly. But Yagyu is not sure whether Tsunade will really trust Karen at the beginning, and whether she will allow the torture department to examine Karen after taking her back to the village. If so, Yagyu cannot teach Karen the sealing technique before she joins Konoha. Before teaching her the sealing technique, you have to think of a suitable reason. And it must be before Tsunade focuses on training Karen. Otherwise, Tsunade suddenly gets excited and gives Karen the scroll of Uzumaki Mito's sealing technique, then Yagyu can't use Karen as a shield. As a descendant of the Senju clan, it doesn't matter if he learns the sealing technique from Karen, Tsunade will just turn a blind eye. But if he teaches the sealing technique to others without authorization, it will break the rules. This is the advantage of your own things. So when to teach is really important. Swish. Suddenly, Yagyu had a flash of inspiration and thought of a good idea. This idea is, Mask Storage Hall. Karen found the inheritance of the Uzumaki clan there. Although this reason is absurd, it is very credible. In this way, even if Karen will be investigated by the torture department, she can get a perfect explanation for the fact that she did not know the sealing technique before joining Konoha, but she learned it in a few days. Thinking of this, Yagyu's appetite suddenly opened up, and he quickly finished the dinner made by Karen, which made Karen look happy and satisfied. In the next few days, Karen was responsible for taking care of Yuhi Kurenai, while Yagyu used Kagura's hard eye to cover the entire Tansho street, and waited for the arrival of the Sannin gathering by sensing the size and strength of chakra. And Tsunade and the others did not keep Yagyu waiting for long. On this day, a very large chakra suddenly appeared in Yagyu's perception. Next to this chakra, there was another one that was not inferior to Yuhi Kurenai. When Yagyu opened his red eyes and looked over, the owners of the two chakras were Tsunade and Shizune. The appearance of Tsunade and Shizune meant that Orochimaru, Kabuto Yakushi, Jiraiya and Naruto were also coming. What a coincidence. Kurenai Yuhi, who had been in a coma for several days, finally came out of the world of illusion. He controlled it with one eye for several days, and he didn't use Tsukuyomi, which shows that Uchiha Itachi's illusion attainments are many times stronger than 5 years ago. Teacher Kurenai, you're awake. Yagyu came to Kurenai Yuhi as soon as possible and asked in surprise. Yagyu, are you okay? The first sentence of Kurenai Yuhi, who had just opened her eyes and her vision was still blurry, made Yagyu feel warm in his heart. Yagyu patted the back of Yuhi Kurenai's hand and smiled, don't worry, we're all fine. Those two rebel ninjas failed to kill us. That's good, it's the teacher who implicated you. Yuhi Kurenai's vision and consciousness gradually became clear. The scene of herself being killed by Uchiha Itachi appeared in her mind. She immediately said with shame, including the time when Kuroki Raiga was killed, the teacher has dragged you down twice. Am I a very unsuccessful teacher? No, Teacher Hong, you are very strong, but you just happen to encounter enemies who can restrain you. Yagyu smiled and comforted, besides, if it weren't for the illusion you taught me, I wouldn't be able to get rid of the pursuit of those two people. Don't comfort me, you must have used the trump card you have been hiding to save the teacher. The teacher is very clear about his own strength. The illusion attainment of Uchiha Itachi is the most terrifying existence the teacher has ever seen. Despite this, Yuhi Kurenai's mood is still much better. Glancing at the red-haired girl standing obediently next to Yagyu, Yuhi Kurenai couldn't help but ask, is she the descendant of the Uzumaki clan you mentioned? Yes, Teacher Hong. Yagyu introduced Xianglin to Yuhi Hong. Her name is Xianglin, and she has been taking care of you these days. Thank you for taking care of me during this time, Xianglu. Yuhi Hong smiled and said hello to Xianglin, and then sat up. Teacher Hong, don't. Xiang Lian looked worried and wanted to remind him, but unfortunately it was too late. Yuhi Hong, who was originally covered with a quilt, only her head and palms were exposed. As soon as she sat up, the quilt slipped down, and her body, which was hidden under it, was immediately revealed. Yagyu's eyes were as big as bells, and he contributed the expression of a wide-eyed dog. Ah! Yuhi Hong looked down and instantly let out a scream that could shatter the glass. Immediately, she crossed her arms, looked at Yagyu with a red face, and shouted angrily, why don't you get out quickly? Oh! Yagyu came to his senses and quickly walked out of the room. Teacher Hong, I'm sorry, I'm really sorry. It's all my fault. When the door was closed, Yagyu could already hear Kosovo's continuous apologies. She must be bowing to Yuhi Kurenai now. Yagyu couldn't help but rub his warm nose. The young man, who was full of blood, almost spewed blood on the spot after witnessing such a scene at such a close distance. Because men and women were not close to each other, Yagyu had let Xianglu take care of Yuhi Hong in the past few days, and he had never entered her room at all. So he never expected that when Xiangling wiped Yuri Hong's body, he would not help her get dressed. Oh no, it seems that Teacher Hong's clothes can't be worn anymore. The ability of the red eye is similar to that of the white eye. When it is turned on, only the meridians and chakra flow of the human body can be seen. Yagyu didn't know that there was not even a trace of Yuhi Kurenai's body hidden under the quilt. Yuhi Kurenai, who had just woken up and might not be fully conscious yet, obviously didn't notice this. So two people who didn't know about it, one gave away the welfare and the other accepted the welfare. Not to mention, she is indeed a mature lady, with a great figure. Lu Sheng secretly thought to himself, and then quickly shook his head, trying to shake the dirty things out of his head. Bang! At this time, Yagyu faintly heard a sound like a balloon exploding in the room. It's a bit like the sound of using the three-body technique and the shadow clone technique, and it's also like the sound of opening a storage scroll. Squeak. After a while, the sound of the door opening was heard. Yuhi Hong, who put on a formal suit, walked out with her head lowered. Teacher Hong. Before Yagyu came forward to speak, a lotus arm locked his neck. Yuhi Hong said in a vicious tone, "You brat, forget about what you just saw. Did you hear that? Hong, Teacher Hong, I can't forget you like this." Yagyu, who originally wanted to agree, but because he was choked, half of his face was pressed against his conscience, which he had just feasted on, and he suddenly spoke in a vague tone. Hearing this, Yuhi's face turned red again, and her movements immediately changed from a chokehold to a chokehold on Yagyu's neck with both hands, shaking his body vigorously, and warning, "Forget everything, do you hear me? Listen, I heard it." Although Yuhi Hong didn't exert any force, Yagyu still pretended to be uncomfortable and nodded repeatedly as if he was speechless. Snort. Only then did Yuhi Hong let go of her hand and turned her head with a groan. Because of what happened just now, Yuhi Hong might not be able to face Yagyu in a short time. The image of the teacher has been completely shattered. Seeing this, Yagyu couldn't help but comforted him. "Teacher Hong, it's okay. Just like you said a few days ago, I'm just a little kid still drinking milk. You still say." Yuhi Hong's eyes seemed to be burning with flames as she glared at Yagyu fiercely. "Can't you see that I'm actually teasing you on purpose? How can there be a kid who is almost 1.7 meters tall?" Knowing that Yuhi Hong was angry, Yagyu quickly raised his hands as if to surrender and did not dare to say anything. "I'm hungry when I go out to eat." Yuhi Kurenai felt that the atmosphere had become awkward and immediately walked out of the house. Yagyu and Phosphorus follow closely behind. Standing next to Yagyu, Xiangling looked ashamed and said, "Yagyu-kun, I'm sorry, it's all my fault." Yagyu glanced at Yuhi Kurenai in front of him and deliberately flattered him, "It's okay. Kurenai-sensei is the most gentle and kind-hearted beauty in the entire ninja world. She won't blame you." Puff. In fact, he wasn't angry at all, but Yuhi Kurenai didn't know how to face Yagyu and was instantly amused. I saw her turning her head and rolling her eyes at Yagyu Sheng and Xianglian, and said angrily, "Why are you walking so far behind? Come on, follow me. I haven't eaten in the past few days, and I'm almost starving now. What do you think of this place? Familiar? Come ahead and lead the way." "Yes, we're coming right now." Yagyu responded quickly, took Koso to the left and right sides of Yuhihiko, and took Yuhiko to the best restaurant in Tanshu Street. In fact, this is also the step given by Yuhi Hong. She is actually not very hungry now. Although Yuhi Hong was in a coma for a few days, Yagyu asked Koro to feed her 3 soldiers grain pills every day. Each soldier's grain pill represents a meal, and 3 soldiers' grain pills can maintain one's physical strength for a day. With the tacit cooperation of Yagyu and Yuhi Hong, the two sides quickly returned to their original appearance. But the relationship between the master and the disciple that has begun to deteriorate cannot be restored by good acting. When something is impure, it is destined to never return to its original purity. Just when the 3 of Yagyu went to eat, Tsunade, who was killing people in the casino, was in a very bad mood. Looking at the banknotes piled on the table and the gamblers who wanted to cry but had no tears, Tsunade did not feel the joy of winning money at all. She won. It has been a long time since she won money last time. And every time she wins money, it means that something bad will happen. Thinking of this, Tsunade instantly lost interest in gambling and was about to leave Tansho Street with Shizune. "Tsunade, long time no see. Just after turning a corner, a familiar figure appeared in front of Tsunade. Looking at the acquaintance in front of her, Tsunade called out his name with a complicated expression, Orochimaru. At the same time, Yagyu, who was having dinner with Yuhi Kurenai and Karen, couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. In his perception, two very powerful chakras have already met. It looks like Orochimaru has found Tsunade. Jiraiya and Naruto should be here soon. After dinner, Yagyu and Karen continued to accompany Kurenai to go shopping. Compared with the small town in Konoha recently, Tansho Street is one of the commercial streets in Konoha, and it is very prosperous. There are many things that cannot be bought in Konoha, and the prices are relatively cheap. So, Kurenai took Yagyu and Karen to buy clothes, and almost exhausted Yagyu and Karen, two guys with special physiques. There is no way. Most of Kurenai just looks but does not buy, and she doesn't even try on a few pieces. She will only try on the ones she likes very much, and then she will fall into entanglement, constantly asking Yagyu and Karen for their opinions, and finally choose to give up because of the price. Yagyu and Karen are not tired physically, but they are tortured mentally. Yagyu doesn't know how powerful Uchiha Itachi's Tsukuyomi is, but he would rather take a Tsukuyomi from Uchiha Itachi than go shopping with Kurenai. But there is a saying that goes, if you eat someone's food, you will be soft-hearted, and if you take someone's money, you will be short-handed. Yagyu, who received benefits from Yuhi Kurenai, had to endure it no matter how tired he was. The same was true for Karen. In this way, Yuhi Kurenai took Yagyu and Karen shopping for several hours, from noon to dusk, and only bought 5 clothes. 2 of them were bought for Yagyu and Karen was very moved at the time. Not only did he recommend her, but he also forgave her mistakes and bought clothes for her. He is worthy of being Yagyu's teacher. They are all good people. After shopping, it was already time for dinner. Yuhi Kurenai took Yagyu and the others to dinner. When they came out of the restaurant, it was already dark. After shopping for half a day, Yuhi Kurenai was ready to go back and rest. On the way back, the three passed by a pub. Looking at the billboard for the launch of new products at the door, Yuhi Kurenai, who had not drunk alcohol for a long time since being killed by Heichule-ya, suddenly felt a little greedy. Thinking of the scene where she was killed instantly by Uchiha Itachi, and thinking of how Yagyu was able to rescue her unconscious self in the face of those 2 S-rank rebels, her strength might be far superior to hers. Coupled with the accident during the day, Yuhi Kurenai, who no longer had any teacher's authority in front of Yagyu, gritted her teeth and said to Yagyu and Karen, "Wait for me here, I'll go in and buy something." After that, Yuhi Kurenai walked into the tavern. Yes, she chose to play badly. Since the student's strength was far superior to hers, and she had no teacher's authority at all, why should she work hard to practice, and why should she quit drinking? Yes, that's right, it's all Yagyu's fault. Yuhi Kurenai, who found an excuse for herself, was full of light. Looking at Yuhi Kurenai, who was about to jump in, Yagyu's mouth corners slightly raised, and said to Karen, "Let's go in too." Okay. Karen didn't ask any more questions, but nodded obediently. Tsunade-sama, Jiraiya-sama. As soon as the two entered, they heard Kurenai Yuhi's exclamation. Looking in the direction of the voice, they saw a man and a woman sitting in front of the bar of the tavern, drinking. Next to them, there was a yellow-haired boy who was eating, and a black-haired woman with a pure appearance holding a pig in her arms. These 4 people were Jiraiya and Naruto, as well as Tsunade and Shizune. "You are..." Tsunade, whose face was already flushed from drinking, looked at Kurenai Yuhi in front of her and said drunkenly, "The daughter of the Shinku family." "It's me, Tsunade-sama." Kuren Yuhi nodded excitedly, looking like a little fangirl. "Long time no see, I didn't expect you to have grown up so much." Tsunade shook the wine glass in her hand and asked, "Can you drink? Do you want a drink?" "Okay." Kuren Yuhi nodded immediately. This is a chance to drink with an idol, which is not available to everyone. Yagyu, why are you here?" At this time, Naruto's voice sounded. His voice also attracted the attention of several people, and at the same time made Yuhi Kurenai slightly cover her forehead. She almost forgot her own disciple in her star chasing. This hair color. Looking at Karen next to Yagyu, Tsunade and Jiraiya, who were already a little drunk, suddenly had a flash of light in their eyes. As if sensing their scrutiny, Karen subconsciously shrank her head and quietly moved behind Yagyu. Looking at Jiraiya and Tsunade secretly, Xianglian felt a turmoil in his heart. The chakra of these two people is so strong. Naruto. Yagyu pretended to be surprised and looked at Naruto, and asked instead, "Why are you here?" "I came out with the lustful immortal to find this mother-in-law." Naruto pointed at Tsunade with his chopsticks and said honestly. Click. The wine glass in Tsunade's hand shattered instantly, and the shadow on her forehead covered her eyes, leaving only a flickering cold light. Naruto's body suddenly felt goosebumps and he trembled involuntarily. "Children are ignorant, Tsunade, don't be angry, drink and drink." Jiraiya hurriedly came out to warm up. With a flattering smile on his face, he stood up and brought a new wine glass, filling Tsunade with sake. Snort. Tsunade snorted but did not get angry. After knowing Naruto's identity, she saw the reflection of Kushina Uzumaki in Naruto's body. This kid's character is the same as her mother's, but her brain is not very good. Picking up the wine glass and drinking it down in one gulp, Tsunade continued to look at the phosphorus hiding behind Yagyu, the light in her eyes getting brighter and brighter. Such abundant vitality, and the characteristics of this red hair, it's so similar. Could it be that after decades, there are still descendants of that clan in the ninja world? Seeing that Tsunade had been looking at Xianglin, Jiraiya was just about to find a topic to help her. Suddenly, as if he thought of something, his eyes suddenly lit up and he said, "By the way, Tsunade, I will introduce you to someone." Quote. After finishing speaking, Jiraiya waved to Yagyu and said, "Young man, come here." "Jiraiya-sama, Tsunade-sama." Yagyu came over and greeted them respectfully. The polite look was in sharp contrast to Naruto's rudeness, which made both Tsunade and Shizune next to her have a first impression of this tall and handsome boy. At this time, Naruto asked curiously, "Yagyu, do you also know the lustful immortals and others?" "Naruto, are you serious?" Yagyu looked at Naruto speechlessly and said, "Second-year historical celebrities, direct disciples of the third Hokage, 3 legends of the Second Ninja War, the legendary Sannin, these are big names in the textbook." "I see." Naruto hammered his palm with the back of his hand, looking like he suddenly understood. "Ha ha ha. Young man, you are so knowledgeable and worthy of being the chief student." Jiraiya burst out laughing, enjoying Yagyu's flattery. Tsunade and Shizune looked at Yagyu with eyes full of appreciation. Especially with Naruto as the background, Yagyu, the top student, shines. Just when Tsunade was drinking and preparing to speak, she wanted to exchange a few words with Yagyu. Jiraiya, who was next to him, suddenly said, "Tsunade, this young man's name is Yagyu, and he is one of your clansmen." PFF'd. Ahem. Tsunade spit out a mouthful of wine, choking and coughing repeatedly. Shuin's face, which was already drunk, became even redder. However, she didn't care about the uncomfortable feeling. Instead, she crushed the wine glass again, looked at Jiraiya with cold eyes, and said in a deep voice, "Jiraiya, are you serious?" Gulu. Seeing Tsunade's fist that was able to break the earth and once hit him to the point of being seriously injured and on the verge of death, Jiraiya swallowed subconsciously and said quickly, "I'm not kidding, this is what Sarutobi-sensei said, Yagyu's physique is it seems to be the same as the first Hokage and the second Hokage, and he can also use the second Hokage's hard water blade. Hard vortex water blade." Upon hearing the name of this technique, Tsunade's eyes suddenly lit up, and then she looked at Yagyu and asked, "Boy, did you develop this water escape technique yourself, or was it passed down from your family?" Yagyu lied without batting an eyelid. "It's been passed down from my family. I found the scroll when I was cleaning the house." Besides the hard vortex water blade, are there any other water escape ninjutsu? Is there any water release, water breaking wave, or water release, water dragon bite explosion? Both. Yagyu nodded, causing a genuine smile to appear on Tsunade's face. Before she could confirm, Kurenai Yuhi said, "I can testify for Yagyu that on the way here, we met the S-Class Rebel Itachi Uchiha and the S-Class Rebel Ninja from Kurigakure village. Kurigakure Monster, Kisame Kazaki and Yagyu used many powerful water escape ninjutsu." Quote. Jiraiya looked at Yuhi Kurenai with a surprised look on his face. "Have you met them too?" Uchiha Itachi. Naruto's face looked a little worried as he thought of the scene where Uchiha Sasuke was instantly killed by Uchiha Itachi. I don't know what Sasuke's current situation is like. Silver hair and red eyes, he is indeed very similar to my second grandfather when he was young. Looking at Yagyu's appearance, Tsunade liked it more and more. She couldn't help but waved her hand and said, "Yagyu, come closer and let me have a look." Yagyu immediately walked over obediently. When Yagyu came to the front, Tsunade suddenly grabbed his wrist and input chakra into Yagyu's body by feeling his pulse. The next second, Tsunade's beautiful drunken eyes suddenly became sober. This kind of chakra. Tsunade stared at Yagyu blankly, then suddenly pulled Yagyu into her arms, hugged his neck, and laughed loudly. Ha ha ha, so strong, with such chakra, and such a breath of life, he is indeed a descendant of our Senju. I'm so envious. Jiraiya looked at Yagyu with jealousy and almost crushed the wine glass in his hand like Tsunade. I saw that Yagyu was pulled into Tsunade's arms and hugged his neck, causing half of his face to be pressed against the greatest conscience in the ninja world. What made Jiraiya even more crazy was that Yagyu, who had the strongest Akira technique, looked uncomfortable and repulsed. If you don't want to, just let me come. A brat is a brat, he really doesn't know the beauty of maturity and greatness. Tsunade-sama, congratulations on finding your tribe. Seeing Tsunade, who hadn't laughed heartily for a long time, Shizune immediately smiled and congratulated her. Yuhi Hong is also happy for Yagyu. If we say before, everyone just guessed that Yagyu was a descendant of the Senju clan, and they already believed it 99% of the time. But because there is no evidence and no official certification, Yagyu is still just a civilian orphan. And now, as the granddaughter of the first Hokage and the second Hokage, even if she is the only one left in the family, Tsunade's words are the official certification, and it is equivalent to writing Yagyu's name into the Senju clan in the family tree. When the news reaches Konoha, Yagyu is no longer a civilian orphan, but a clan member recovered by his family, a descendant of the Senju of the forest who founded Konoha. The identity and status of a civilian orphan will also become that of a wealthy aristocrat. At that time, Yagyu, Hinata, Ino and the others will no longer be hindered by their identity and status. Even if Yagyu chooses Hinata or Ino as his wife in the future, no one will sourly accuse him of climbing a high tree. Because he is Gaoji. This is the value of the Senju clan, the orthodox Konoha clan, the most powerful clan in the ninja world. Besides second grandpa's water escape, do you have any other ninjutsu? Tsunade hugged Yagyu and laughed for a while, then let go of Yagyu's neck, then pressed him onto the stool that Shizune Shikuji moved out of the way, and asked, "Is there any chakra explosion?" "Well, that is, the strange power fist. How to practice?" "No." Lu Sheng shook his head, and his tone was somewhat intriguing. "Except for water escape, there are only some techniques that are inconvenient to perform." "Very smart, you did the right thing." Tsunade thought that Yagyu was talking about second grandpa's forbidden technique, so she patted Yagyu's shoulder with appreciation and continued to ask, "Is there a psychic beast?" "Not yet." Hearing this, Tsunade immediately said to Shizune, "Shizune, after you finish drinking, let Yagyu sign a contract with Shigulen." "Yes, Tsunade-sama." Shizune nodded in response. "Tsunade-sama, isn't this bad?" Yagyu pretended to refuse, but Tsunade hugged his neck again and said, "Take it if I give it to you. This is a greeting gift from the elders." "All right," Yagyu responded, helplessly, but secretly rejoiced in his heart. I didn't expect that the most difficult method of cultivating immortal arts could be obtained so easily. Although Yagyu didn't know about Senju Hashirama's celestial arts, he had developed his celestial body to a very high level. He naturally understood it and learned it from Shigulen. But what Yagyu is sure of is that Shigulen must have their own immortal mode. Because the Shigong forest targets Miamu Mountain and Yongji Cave, they are called the Three Holy Places together with them. The masters of the Three Holy Places are all immortals. As long as he learns the immortal mode, the power of Yagyu's wood release will be taken to a higher level. "So good, can you drink?" Looking at the obedient Yagyu, Tsunade liked him even more and couldn't help asking. "Tsunade-sama, Yagyu is only 12 years old, he can't drink yet." Yuhi Kurenai said hurriedly. "The three ninja prohibitions are troublesome." Tsunade curled her lips unhappily, and then said to Yuhi Kurenai, "Then you come and drink with me." "Okay." Yuhi Kurenai, who had been greedy for a long time, suddenly brightened up. Then, She switched positions with Yagyu and was about to fight Tsunade for 300 rounds. Seeing this, Yagyu couldn't help but say, "Teacher Hong, then Karen and I will go back first." Wait, hearing Yagyu's words, Tsunade seemed to remember something and waved to Karen and said, "Come here too." Yes, knowing that Tsunade was Yagyu's elder, Karen immediately became very obedient. Just like before, Tsunade grabbed Karen's wrist and injected chakra into her body. Soon, Tsunade smiled again and asked, "Karen, right? Do you have a last name?" "No, but," Karen shook her head first, then said, "Yagyu-kun said I am a descendant of the Uzumaki clan." Hearing this, Tsunade looked at Yagyu next to Kurenai Yuhi and asked, "Yagyu, how do you know she is a descendant of the Uzumaki clan?" "Because Karen has awakened the unique abilities of the Uzumaki clan, which are physical healing and Kagura's eyes." Yagyu's explanation was the same as what he said to Kurenai Yuhi, and he said slowly, "I met Karen during the Chunin exam. I accidentally saved her at that time and found a lot of tooth marks of different shapes and sizes on her arms. After learning that this was a unique healing technique, I guessed that Karen was a descendant of the Uzumaki clan. A while ago, Karen awakened a special perception with an amazing coverage range. I am more certain that she is a descendant of the Uzumaki clan." Snap. Without waiting for Tsunade to speak, Jiraiya slapped Naruto on the head and scolded, "See, this is the benefit of studying hard. Look at the knowledge reserve of the head student, and then look at you, the last one, who hasn't even learned the Rasengan yet. It hurts, you lecherous sage." Naruto covered his head and cried out in pain, then complained, "I didn't study hard, what does this have to do with the Rasengan? Why is it not related? You didn't even know how to change the form before, how could you learn the Rasengan?" "Who said that? I can already rub it out and will be able to use the Rasengan soon." "That's just a semi-finished product, wait until you can rub one hand out first." "Just wait and see, I will definitely be able to do it. By the way, what kind of ninja clan is the Uzumaki clan? Why is my last name the same as mine? Am I related to this clan? It doesn't matter, they have special unique abilities, do you have them?" "Ah, I don't think so." Ignoring the two people's noise, Tsunade nodded and said, "These two abilities are indeed unique to the Uzumaki clan, and Karen is indeed a descendant of the Uzumaki clan. Are you here to take Karen back to Konoha?" Tsunade told the truth. Yes, Yagyu repeated what he had said to Yuhi Kurenai before. Karen was a ninja from Kusagakur village before, and was always used as a medical tool by the people there. When I rescued her, I found that her chakra was not suitable for the identity of the Uzumaki clan. If this continues, she will definitely die from excessive chakra consumption. I felt a sense of intimacy with Karen, so after learning about her life and experience, I took the initiative to help her leave Konoha, let her wait here for me to complete the Chunin exam, and then ask teacher Kurenai to come with me to pick her up and be her recommender so that Karen can join Konoha. Yagyu-kun. Although she had known about Yagyu's arrangement for a long time, Karen was still moved and her eyes were misty. Shizune, who was next to her, also looked at Yagyu with sparkling eyes. This clan member of Lady Tsunade is really so excellent. Since Yagyu appeared here, the amount of knowledge he showed, and these extremely rational practices, all made Shizune amazed and admired. No wonder when she was young, no matter how hard she tried, she was no match for those geniuses. It turns out that true geniuses are all so outstanding. Tsunade touched Yagyu's head with some heartache and said, "It seems that you know a lot of things. You have learned to hide yourself at such a young age. It's really hard for you." Yagyu smiled but said nothing. And his smile was a tacit agreement in Tsunade's eyes. "So," she slowly said, "don't go back to Konoha yet. Go back with Jiraiya when the time comes, and let Jiraiya be the recommender for Karen. Tsunade, you should go back with us too." Jiraiya took this opportunity to persuade again, "No one is more suitable to be the recommender of Karen than you, and no one is more suitable for the position of the 5th Hokage than you. Now you have found your own people and the clansmen of Lord Mito. Don't you want to go back and protect them to grow up?" Let's drink. This time, Tsunade did not say that only fools would become Hokage, but fell into silence and chose to skip this topic. The atmosphere changed all of a sudden. Yuhi Kurenai quickly came out to warm up the scene, held up a glass of sake and smiled at Tsunade. Tsunade-sama, let me toast you. Come on, drink. Tsunade immediately had a drink with Yuhi Kurenai, and then the two women began to compete in drinking capacity. Seeing this, Yagyu didn't say anything about bringing Shang Phosphorus back. Instead, he stood with Shizune and looked at the two women who were drinking together. With the way they are acting, it will definitely end when one of them lies down. Both Yagyu and Shizune were worried. Sure enough, the drinking party lasted until late at night and didn't end until the pub closed. During this time, Jiraiya, who had not seen Tsunade for a long time, quickly became involved. The three adults drank like crazy. Fortunately, they only drank sake with a relatively low alcohol content, otherwise they would have fallen down long ago. Even so, the three people who had been drinking for several hours all lay down on the bar. Seeing that the drinking party was finally over, Yagyu, Shizune and Naruto either supported or carried Tsunade away. On the way, Shizune asked, Yagyu-kun, are you staying in a hotel? No, we live at Xiangling's place and she rented a house on Tuanju Street. Then tomorrow at noon, please come to Yoshi Hotel, and I will help you sign a contract with Shigu Forest. Okay, thank you, Sister Shizune. Yeah, see you tomorrow. Soon, the seven people parted ways at a crossroads. Yagyu carried Yuhi Kurenai on his back, and returned to his residence with Karen, and then asked Karen to take care of the drunk Yuhi Kurenai. And he went to the bathroom to take a shower. Standing under the shower, Yagyu raised his head and let the warm water hit his face. The corners of his mouth formed a beautiful curve, revealing a thoughtful smile. Smooth, so smooth. Since graduating, Yagyu has found that everything is going smoothly for him. No matter what kind of plan you make, you can easily get the results you want. At this moment, Yagyu realized what an advantage it was to know the plot well. Just wait for tomorrow's arrival, and Yagyu can finally finish the plan. The plan made due to his bold ideas not only allowed Yagyu to obtain the blood release, would release and Senju Tobarama's water release ninjutsu, but also the Uzumaki clan's sealing skills and the death mask, as well as the inheritance of the previous Hokage that he had not yet obtained, and spiritualism and sage mode. In addition to the improvement in strength, Yagyu also received the ultimate dog liquor, Kosovo, the vest of a descendant of the Senju clan, and the one who returned to the village, the Crown Prince of Konoha. Although Yagyu did not participate in the Konoha collapse plan, the Konoha collapse plan and the subsequent impact made Yagyu gain weight immediately. Thinking of this, Yagyu was full of expectations for tomorrow's arrival. Shizune, Karen, Naruto, and even Jiraiya and Yuhi Kurenai didn't notice that Tsunade secretly added medicine to Jiraiya's wine glass while competing with them. But Yagyu discovered it. This means that tomorrow will be the Sannin's class reunion after many years. There is no place more suitable for Mudun to make his debut than there. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.